ready?
S-D-P, the Steve Dangle Podcast, with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
All right.
Hot.
All right. Man, okay. So first off, today is the actual anniversary of the David Ayres game, is it not?
It is. I thought it was tomorrow. It's not. It's today.
The Ayresiversary.
Oh.
Whoa! Woo! If only we were like, man, this has got to be the low point of the season. If only we'd known what would happen 2 weeks later.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Life changed. Life changed
Yeah.
very considerably.
It might have been the Leafs' low point of the season, but life hit a low point about 2.5, 3 weeks later. But David Ayres, the Marlies warm-up goalie, the backup to the backup to the backup, the emergency call-up, beats the Leafs last year with the Carolina Hurricanes, and an emotional win for the Carolina Hurricanes. And it was the last time Pierre Engvall had scored until recently.
Yes, he scored in the 5-1 game that the Leafs blew to Ottawa, where they came back and won 6-5. He's banned from scoring.
How about he just doesn't score? He doesn't score. Never.
God, what a strange player. Like he looks like a giraffe. He's got this big alien head, but it's probably normal. It's just that his neck is really long. Whenever he shoots, it looks like he's holding a paintbrush. You ever notice that? He shoots like he's
I'm gonna have to
trying
look
to
at that.
sweep the ice.
I don't think I've seen that. I'm gonna have to check that out.
I watched the Leafs so maniacally that they could all play without names or numbers, and I would be able to identify them. And he's one of the easiest. I think that's why I'm so fixated on him.
You are doing some things, though, for Sportsnet, Steve, that are special. So can you talk about any of them?
Yeah, I actually just realized that this podcast won't be up until those videos are up. So there you go. Go
check them out.
Yeah, so there is one. I'm not sure when it's going up, but it is going up. When I grew up, or when I was growing up, I wanted to be goalie for the Leafs. That was my driveway fantasy. I would always go in net, and Dad would take shots on me. The neighbor kids would take shots on me. It's how I literally discovered my manhood, because when I was 5 years old, I blocked a one-timer with my groin. And let me tell you, I didn't know that kind of pain was a thing. So David Ayres helped me live my dream of being an ice hockey goalie for the first time. He gave me he brought 2 sets of equipment to the shoot that we had, one for him and one for me, because COVID and all that. Mm-hmm. So we put on all the equipment, masked up and everything. And then I literally hockey masked up, and I have such a ridiculous new appreciation for what goalies do.
Oh, isn't it hard? It's crazy.
I can't believe they're able to move.
No.
I did not think the equipment was like that. You know, they always talk about it being heavy. And I'm like, yeah, but it's probably mostly the pads. Even the stiffness in the upper body gear. And I felt like Superman. I felt like a superhero, because there's no place the puck could even hit me that would hurt. And I was saying something along the lines of that to David Ayres. I'm like, where would it even hit you that it would hurt? He's like, these guys shoot so hard that it doesn't matter. And like one of the worst ones is kind of like right between your shoulder and elbow. Mm-hmm. Like it's not thick enough, because you do need some mobility. And if it hits you, it's just brutal. So I managed to somehow not throw out my back doing that. And the feature we shot before that will be up for sure by the time this podcast is up, is me versus David Ayres, a 10-shot shootout where I had 10 opportunities to score a goal on him.
Okay, now you can't tell us.
Yeah, he can.
I can. No. It'll be up.
No.
Yeah, the video will be up.
But I want to hold on. I want to just guess. Can we guess how many before we get into this? And before I don't even want to know on this podcast how many times you scored. But Jesse, I want you to guess, and I want to guess, and then I want to see how close we are. Okay. So Jesse, what do you give it out of 10?
1.
You give him 1.
I think
I get a lucky one.
I'm not even lucky. I think he lets you have 1.
Yeah.
You go 0 for 9, and then Ayres is like, "Hey, here's 1."
Yeah. You know what, Steve? I'm gonna be nice, because I have seen you score a penalty shot goal. I don't know if you remember this, but there's actually video on my Instagram page of you when you got your penalty shot goal at the Eric Lindros tournament, the last time we were able to do one. Yeah. And you scored it, and it was big. It was a major goal. So I'm going to say you got 3. Because I got a little faith. I'm going to say you got 3. Two are lucky, one he let in.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
It's very good. And we became fast friends talking about our various injuries. I was like, I hurt my back falling down the stairs. And he's like, my knee's mangled. And I was like, that's great. And by the end of the shoot, we exchanged numbers. And the first thing he texted me was the link for like one of those electrode things that massages your muscles.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the age we're at.
When you're, yes, Steve, when you're old, you just bond over injuries.
Yeah. So how do you fix this? Oh, here's how. Yeah.
I'm currently going to rehab for my back for I get what is it? The needlepoint stuff. The acupuncture, but they electrify it.
Oh, so, yeah.
Have I said that on the show? I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So it's kind of cool because the muscle goes boom, 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 and then releases, and it's pretty amazing. It's fixed my. I'm sure on the past in the show you've seen me like click my jaw and stuff like that. There was actually somebody who messaged me once and was like, "Hey man, do you have a cocaine problem?" And
I forgot.
You remember that?
Yes.
And I was like, I don't have a coke problem. I've never even tried the stuff, but I did have a bad jaw problem. I thought it was TMJ, and my guy's like, no, 95% of people who think they have TMJ do not have it. It's just your back's tight. TMJ is like a jaw thing where you, it's your jaw is I think deformed and like there's a whole bunch of things that need to happen, and it clicks and it pops. You're in immense pain. I used to get headaches every single day, and I don't get them anymore. It's amazing.
See, this was the conversation between me and
this
David
is the thing, right? You gotta listen. If you're in your 20s and you're starting to get headaches and back pain, deal with it now because you don't even want to be 32 and waiting that long. It was pretty stupid of me. Now I want to get into who wore the crown. Jesse, who is it brought to you by today?
Today's episode is sponsored by the mute button on Zoom. They say you better use it sometimes, but you'll read the liner, Adam. I don't need to give you.
Okay, you're right.
help.
Sorry, I got it right here. Let me just okay. All right. Hey, so today's Who Wore the Crown is brought to you by the mute button on Zoom. Have to pee? Why not press mute? And pee during a meeting, but make sure that you in fact press mute because a friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, was dealing with a high-ranking radio executive who thought they'd press mute and didn't, and he can't believe it, and it happened.
What?
The guy peed. You know, I had a friend of mine who was in radio, and a high-ranking exec was peeing, and they didn't mute the thing. So,
it's a common.
And he said nothing.
Common problem in television.
My God, yes.
So I had to wear those mic packs for every episode of Ice Surfing, and I was so paranoid. They're like, "Oh, just turn it off." Now I would literally take it off and unplug it every time. Yeah, because I was just so paranoid.
If you work at a broadcasting company, like several of us have on this call right now, you have access to the truck, is what they call in the business, the truck feed. So you can see everything. And during commercials, you're still watching what's happening on the broadcast. And if people's mics are on, they're on, and you can hear everything. So make sure you turn your mics off if you're going to work in TV.
And they got to be careful because you never know, some pencil neck, pimple face Leafs TV employee named Steve might have access to the backhaul feed because he's editing highlights that night. And then you might be chastising the Leafs coach for thinking he's a fucking genius about something. And I've heard some stuff. I will not be outing people on this show.
I can vividly remember watching Hockey Night in Canada growing up. And I probably was like 12 when this happened. And for some reason, the commercial stopped playing and they went to the feed but without the intro. So it wasn't like anybody was queued up. They should not have gone back to the studio. And the two anchors, and it had to be like, it was probably, I don't think it was Ron and Don, but it was two guys sitting there ready to take the next thing out of commercials. And there's probably a minute and a half of commercials left. And you just see them both and they're like, oh no, like just sitting at the desk, just exhausted. And that's what really happens. I remember at BT, like there were several times where Like somebody would be peeing or, going to the bathroom and forget to turn it off. And you get a thing in the mic. Hey, shut your mic, but
like technology today, like I know when I worked at Sportsnet for the brief moment, I could pull up any feed just on my desktop because it's all through the air and it's on a cloud server. So you can just type in the code and then you're just on whatever camera it is and you just watch it because that's the feed you can clip videos from and get the replays and all that. But it's all accessible if you have the right credentials.
I think some hosts are like, oh, well, yeah, but it's just the crew here. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Right.
No, it's not. It's like hundreds of people across the world.
Right.
Yeah, it's watch your mouth.
That's the lesson. Watch your mouth.
Yeah, it's wild.
Watch your mouth. Turn it off if you got to go to the potty.
Steve, I want you to use your mouth and tell us who you are giving the crown to.
Phrasing. We all know who the Leafs MVP is. We all know who the best player is. So every week when you ask me who wore the crown, I try to think of someone who is not this person because saying this person every week would be boring. Can you imagine saying the same person every week? Couldn't be me. Auston Matthews is on another goofy planet. He is on another world. 18 goals in 18 games. And man, was this guy right or what? So he had the nightmare shooting percentage in the bubble, and he didn't score in the first few games this season. Then they scrapped those microchipped pucks that both Auston Matthews and Jason Spezza said had a different weight to them. He's got something like 18 goals. Forget 18 and 18. He's got something like 18 and 14 or 15 since they changed those pucks. It's absolutely absurd. Here's how special this season is, everybody. Doug Gilmour arguably had the best single season in Leafs history. He won the Selke, finished second in Hart, and he had 127 points. Mitch Marner right now, if this was an 82-game season, he's scoring at a 129-point pace.
Wow.
Matthews is 132.
Wow.
That's how goofy this is. So right now we're like over a quarter of the way through the season, I think. And he's still got a realistic shot at beating Doug Gilmour's single season record for points in a season. Well, at least the pace for it. And he's got a legitimate shot at 50 and 50. This guy he should be in every conversation there is around the NHL. Even Vezina, Norris, throw him in there. Rookie of the year, give it to him again. Doesn't matter. He's unbelievable. So it's got to go to Auston Matthews.
And nothing makes me happier than other markets bitching about seeing Auston Matthews highlights. Sorry, guys, but we have to watch everybody else's highlights too. And most of the time, the Leafs were not at the top of it because they stink. So I think I'm okay with it.
They just can't cover the Leafs then if you don't want to see Matthews highlights. He's got points in 17 straight games. Stupid. It's ridiculous.
It is. Actually, I have a theory about that.
He's good.
Steve brought up there. I have a theory about what you just said, but I'll hold off on it as to why Matthews is not going to win a major award this year.
Oh my God.
You ready? Yeah, I'll save that for after. But I have an interesting take on it. I want to get your opinion, and I have proof to back it up. In the meantime, can I just give Mitch Marner a shout out?
Absolutely.
Mitch Marner needs a crown. I don't think we've given Mitch Marner enough. And for Steve's same reason, we've held back on this. This is an $11 million player, or 10.839, who needed to perform at a $10.839 million pace. And he has. Yeah. That's what we needed. This is what we needed last season, and this is what we expect, and this is what's being done. However, seeing it for real is special. It's awesome. And if he continues producing at this pace, nobody's arguing that money isn't worth it. That is worthwhile cash spent if you got these two guys performing at this rate. And it's funny, Babs did everything he possibly could to keep them apart. And now that you've got them together, it's sort of like, I don't understand why you would hamstring yourself like that. Or why would you pull yourself back from that? Nylander and Tavares haven't been bad together, despite what you've read in the Toronto Sun. But these two it's not just very good, it's magic. This is something a Leaf fan has never seen in their lifetime, ever.
They're a top 5 duo in the NHL.
Yes, we've never, ever, ever seen this. We've seen Matt Sundin and his band of merry men. That's what we've seen. Or we've seen Doug Gilmour and Again, Band of Merry Men. Those teams in the early 90s were not supposed to be that good. They were never supposed to be that good. They were a surprise. That's what made it so exciting. But Doug Gilmour didn't have another Doug Gilmour. Austin Matthews has the alternative Austin Matthews, which is the setup machine that is Mitch Marner. And I've said in the past, listen, I value goal scoring above assists. I do. I still do. But what Mitch Marner's doing out there and the sneaky shot that he put in on Saturday, because he even said it in the broadcast, nobody sees me as a shooter. Man, that's the kind of stuff where you are going to see 120-point seasons if he stays healthy, if he keeps this up, because people will just not know what to do. It's like the Alex Pietrangelo with Nate McKinnon. When Nate McKinnon's driving down the line, he goes, "Oh boy." That's the kind of thing where it's like, if you keep them guessing, it's for seasons 4 and 5 when you're going to be a dominant player, they have to be so bewildered by what you might do that they can't think of one thing to cover. And that's sort of what happened.
Yeah. Well, and Mitch Marner's shooting makes Matthews' shooting better.
Yes.
And Matthews' passing makes Marner's shooting better. Lost in the fact that Matthews had 2 goals. He had 2 really nice assists in that game. They're a top 5 duo in the NHL.
And let's throw this out there too. Matthews is a pretty good defensive center as well.
Yeah, he's one of the leaders in block shots, one of the leaders in stick checks and block passes. They were showing the other night. He's honestly, it's funny that we evoke Doug Gilmour. What might happen is sort of what happened to Doug Gilmour, where maybe he walks away with the Selke, but not the Hart, sort of thing. It's the best season so far we've seen out of a Leaf in our lives. But you were talking about Marner.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't be possible without Mitch.
Jesse, what about you, buddy?
So it's very funny that you gave your crown to Mitch Marner, Adam, and that, Steve, you gave your crown to Austin Matthews, because my plan today was to give my crown to both of them. Oh. And I prepared this from Jonas Siegel to give them my crown. They rank 1 and 2 league-wide in 5-on-5 scoring and are tied for 2nd and 4th overall in the NHL scoring race. Matthews tops in goals and 5-on-5 and non-5-on-5. Mitch Marner trails only McDavid with 21 assists, and he ties him at 5-on-5 assists. And Marner has set up 11 of Matthews' 18 goals. Together, he and Matthews have produced 40% of the Leafs' 5-on-5 offense. That's 18 out of 45 goals.
Oh, wow. My God.
So, and they outscore their opponents a goal share of 76%. So when Matthews and Marner are on the ice, the score is 22-7 for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh man!
If we need just like just to put a head on that, what's the word I'm looking for? Put a cap on that conversation that you guys
put a button on the scene.
Stamp.
Put a stamp on that conversation. I think that number is it. 22-7 when Matthews and Marner are on the ice. Those two definitely deserve every crown this week. I think
is that
you
even
should give
strength?
them like 6 of them.
Is that even strength?
Yeah.
Oh my God! And they're killing penalties, both of them.
Points wise, McDavid, Draisaitl, Marner, Matthews. That's what it is in the league right now. And then Scheifele is 3 points behind Matthews with 26 and 18. Yes, and interestingly, still in the top 10. Who, guys? Who is still in the top 10 for points? That is surprising.
On the Leafs?
No, just in the NHL. Surprising top 10.
I'm gonna go. It's either like Connor Garland or Christian Dvorak or something like that. Did you see that stat? Where they had the top 5 scoring duos in the NHL, and it's like elite, those two. It was like, where
somebody had to score.
I mean, I know they're good. I didn't think they were that good.
James Van Riemsdyk, former Leaf, still hanging in there at number 10. He's got 21 points in 15 games. Not bad.
Good for him.
Not bad. Yeah, it's great. This is a guy that his shooting percentage is 24%.
So that might come down.
But even so, this is a guy who was scratched for the playoffs last year.
Yeah,
$7 million player. This is good for him.
I'm sure he's riding a bit of a PDO bender. You know what we also got to talk about? Goal scoring.
And that's who wore the crown.
Oh, sorry.
And that's who wore the crown. Brought to you by, what was it, Jesse? The mute button on Zoom. The next time you have to pee and you're on the phone with your boss, why not?
Why not?
Mute. You probably should. Get you in a lot of trouble. Maybe you want to undo the dishwasher too. Let the dogs out. Do whatever it is you need to do, but use the mute button on Zoom when you're doing it so you don't get in trouble. For a certain kind of sports fan, the most important part of a game isn't always who wins and loses. Whether you're sweating out a late field goal to hit an over or watching nervously as a three-pointer in garbage time makes or breaks your four-leg parlay, having skin in the game completely transforms the fan experience. And that's why The Athletic is excited to announce the launch of its exclusive U.S. partnership with BetMGM and its new sport betting hub. Sports betting coverage at The Athletic will deliver all the insights, analysis, and original reporting subscribers have come to expect, plus fully integrated live odds and special offers from BetMGM. So even though Super Bowl 55 is now behind us, there's still plenty of great action, whether you're talking NBA, NHL, college basketball, golf, and soon enough, the MLB. And I know this, I'm going to be looking at hockey. It's chaotic, it's fun, and I'm going to get into it. Right now, BetMGM is offering Steve Dangle Podcast listeners a risk-free first bet up to $600. Just sign up at betmgm.com and use the bonus code TheAthleticPod to take advantage of this special offer from the king of sportsbooks. This offer for new customers, that's a risk-free first bet up to $600 at betmgm.com with the bonus code TheAthleticPod. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years of age or older to wager. Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, or West Virginia only. Excludes Michigan disassociated persons. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, Nevada, and Virginia. 1-800-270-7117. For confidential help in Michigan, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, and 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. In Tennessee, call or text the red line at 800-899-9789. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. Promotional offer not available in Nevada. All right, so yeah, I know going into the just the points leaders here, and I know this is sort of basic, but Scheifele at 5. Kane at 6, Backstrom at 7th, Besser at 8, Huberdeau 9, Van Riemsdyk 10. We haven't got to the ridiculousness that is the Florida Panthers yet. Hopefully we can get to it today, but it is just Florida is just wild. I mean, that's par for the course, but actually the Panthers are a real story this year in terms of their success and their backup goalie and their starting goalie, and it's bizarre. Everything is weird in Florida all the time, and the Panthers are no different. So in the meantime, we do need to talk about this Austin Matthews season. And I know you kind of hit on it there, Steve. But it is the most special season that we've seen from any single Leaf player thus far. Through 20 games, we've never seen anything like this. You can't tell me we have, because we haven't. We actually have not. 18 goals, 18 games, not bad. Now, I have a question. For the same reason, Steve, that you would not give Matthews a crown for the longest time, and I would not give Marner the crown for the longest time, I have a feeling that he's going to have a hard time winning any major awards. Now, the reason I have for this is I think that writers, the people that vote on these things, also take that same viewpoint. Well, it seems obvious who this person should be, but what if I went a different route? Case in point, 2017, Connor McDavid is the clear-cut favorite and the best player in the entire league. Who does the Hart Trophy go to? Taylor Hall. And what's the big distinction? And we had a huge debate about it at that time, guys. What was the big distinction?
The Oilers didn't make the playoffs, and Hall's New Jersey Devils did.
Right.
Wasn't McDavid not even nominated?
How does that? Oh, I don't even remember. But how does that look in posterity? Really?
Well, I was a Hall guy, and I was wrong. Like, he had a magical season. He was the sole reason the New Jersey Devils made the playoffs that year. And he wasn't the best player like Connor McDavid was. Most valuable, which I think was the argument. Okay, maybe. But like, because the Oilers didn't make the playoffs, maybe that makes McDavid even more valuable to the Oilers because he was that good and they still sucked.
Because they didn't finish dead last. The other thing I want to say is look at what happened last year. And I'm not saying Leon Draisaitl didn't deserve it, but you are going to try to argue to me that Connor McDavid isn't the most valuable player on the Oilers?
Well, and he was good without McDavid for like 2 weeks, but no one gave a shit that Nathan McKinnon literally just willed the Avalanche through last season.
Agreed.
Despite all the injuries.
Agreed.
One thing I will say, knowing that is important criteria, how you play without certain, with certain adversity in front of you, Games like tonight against Calgary, I think, are going to count big because, boy, are the Leafs shorthanded.
They are, but thankfully not in the high power thing. I just want to wrap this point quickly, Steve, before we get to tonight's game, because there's lots to get to there. I think the point I'm trying to make is I think there's going to be a lot of writers who go, what's the answer other than Austin Matthews when it comes to the Hart Trophy, when it comes to the Selke, which is the runner-up Hart? Let's be honest. Well, the Selke is the runner-up Hart Trophy.
They've written themselves, yes, that's true. They, at least for forwards, they've written themselves into this interesting corner because, Matthews is doing good. Well, it's because of Marner. All right, well, let's have that McDavid conversation then. Let's have that Draisaitl conversation then. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying we're not saying none of those players aren't great. And you know what? One of those two, Draisaitl, McDavid, probably wins the Hart. But I'm saying Matthews maybe gets a Selke nom, but I don't know if people are going to vote for him in the same way that you think, even if he does score that many goals, because people are going to say, writers are going to, they're like this. They're going to be like, well, what about somebody else on some basic other ridiculous level? Even though Matthews will clearly deserve it if he continues at this pace.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, and also writers are conscious of, like, people think the Toronto media is biased. They're actually very conscious of trying to avoid coming across that way.
Right.
To the point where they won't vote Leafs. So I think at this rate anyway, a lot of ballots will include McDavid and Matthews, but probably with McDavid first.
Yep. Even if we get a 50 goal, 50 game thing, which would be crazy.
Man, if he actually does that, he's got to win it. I don't give a shit if McDavid scores, 2.5 points a game. 50 and 50 is special, and it hasn't been done for so long. If Matthews actually pulls that off, he'll win.
When the last time it was it Brett Hall?
God.
I'll look it up.
Look at it. Yeah, let's look that because it's got.
Has it even happened in our lifetime?
Yes, it has. It has to have, because Brett Hall scored 76 with the Blues, and Solani had 70 plus with the Jets. So
the last official 50 and 50 season is Brett Hall 91-92.
That's what.
That's the year Jesse was born.
Yeah. There's a couple unofficial 50 and 50 seasons.
Okay.
So Yari Curry did it in 84-85, but it was the 50th game of the season, but it was 53rd game. So it needs to be the team's 50th game of the season and not your 50th game of the season is how it's described.
So he had missed some games.
Oh, so he's a goal behind.
Cam Neely did it in 44 games played, but his team had already played 66 games, so it doesn't count.
Holy shit! Cam Neely was so good.
That's crazy.
Man. We were robbed of Cam Neely. We were robbed. Injuries.
Wow,
brutal. Mm-hmm. There's an all-time underrated player. Him, I think Mike Bossy's another one where you're like, Jesus, look at the goals those guys.
Pavel Bure, Peter.
Another name on the
Palpy, I think. What's that?
Do you want another name on the 50 and 50 but doesn't count list?
Yes.
Sure.
Alexander McGinley in 92-93 for the Sabres. He did it in 46 games, but it was the team's 53rd game.
Why doesn't that count? That's
scored 76 goals in 77 games that year.
Why do we do that?
McGinley.
Why do we make this difficult?
Because they make longevity or durability, I should say, part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That is dumb. Did the player do it in the amount of games or not?
No. Here's how ridiculous 50 and 50 is in today's NHL. Because I remember, I want to say I was an intern at the Fan, so it was like around 2008 or something. Ovechkin had a shot at 50 and 50, and it was a story that was followed for like close to a month. He had a shot at 50 and 50, but it wasn't for that season. It was dating back to the last. So it was like the last chunk of last season and going into this one. So he ended hot and started hot.
I remember that.
But for someone to have a realistic shot at it, like this season from game one, Andy's missed a game. It's wild that we're 19 games into the season. He's got 18 goals. It's not crazy to think.
No. Yeah, and it puts in perspective how incredible Gretzky did it in 37 games it was.
Yeah.
Like, that's stupid. And you can era adjust all you want. That's fucking sick. Like, there's just no other way around.
There's no
That's
era
amazing.
adjusting Gretzky's numbers. Like that part is ridiculous. He's so far and away ahead of everyone that it's just clearly he's the best.
Did you hear? Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Well, this is one of Jeff Merrick's favorite stats, and this should give you an idea of how head and shoulders above everybody else Wayne Gretzky was. Who was the second highest scoring NHL player of the 80s? We could sit here all day. You won't get it.
Marcel Dion?
No.
Who is it?
Peter Stastny.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Peter in Quebec?
Yep.
Get the fuck out. Wow.
We could sit here all day. You'd never land on him.
Wow. No.
That's wild.
I would have picked 5 or 6 other guys before you wouldn't think about the Nords like at all.
No. How many younger people listening to the show are like, who is that? And is that Paul Stastny's dad?
Yes.
Yes, by the way.
Yes.
But-
And his uncle Jan also played for them, and they had a brother too, didn't they? That another brother.
There was
two of the three brothers. Two of the three brothers defected from the Soviet Czech Republic, basically, or whatever it was, or was it?
Yeah, there's a Peter, there's a Paul, there's a Jan.
There's an Anton.
Anton.
Jan
played for like the Blues and Bruins or something when Crosby was drafted.
Right.
Around Marion as well.
And a Marion Stastny. Okay.
Heck of a family for hockey.
They've done well and made a couple bucks.
I think at the end of the day, you got to look at. I feel like the Cam Neely, the Ari Curry, all that should count. That should count. It's not about necessarily like this arbitrary idea of durability. Cam Neely scored 50 goals in 44 games.
But not.
He got injured. The fact that he got injured and came back and did it is more impressive.
That's team more played impressive. 66. It doesn't count.
Why do we hate our own fans so much? Why can't we just? You asked me. There's people on Twitter on Saturday night going, Adam, why can't you just enjoy this? Why can't this league let me enjoy some shit that's interesting? Why not? Amazing.
Why not?
It's stupid. And by the way, they should have an award, like a trophy for 50 goals in 50 games or less.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they do.
It's in the record book, and that's how they
is, but there should be like a thing that you win. Like it only comes out once a generation when someone pulls it off. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it is something they should consider just because it's so incredibly rare. Like how many 60 goal seasons have there been since the year 2000? I think 2.
And was it Chichu and?
Nope, he got close. He was 56.
Ovi has one.
Ovi has one, and Stamkos has one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember that year he was unstoppable?
Oh,
yeah.
He was absolutely ridiculous.
That was his second year in the league, was it not?
That when he had that
no, it wasn't his
mullet?
He got 40 in his second year, I think. Sorry, what?
Oh, okay.
Didn't he have that disgusting mullet that he had for a while? Remember how bad his mullet was? You could tell it was on purpose. That was gross.
But like he just does it because he can. Like,
yeah, whatever.
Buddy,
Steve Stamkos.
I'm Steven Stamkos. Deal with my hair. It's like Patrick Laine's beard. Like whatever. I just scored 40 goals. I'll look as stupid as I want.
I think it's interesting too with Steve Stamkos and a few other guys where they're so injury prone and yet they're still so good. Like imagine Steven Stamkos hadn't snapped his leg.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like he broke the biggest bone in his body and he could still rip. It's amazing.
And here's how ridiculous Connor McDavid is and how seamless his success has been. So Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick were talking about Crosby's 1000th game. And because like it's unbelievable. Like I remember his rookie year. But they were talking about his 1000th game and they were talking about the McDavid Crosby comparisons. And it's not just that they're truly great. It's that they overcame their injuries. Crosby was obviously head and neck. We all remember that. But then when they talked about McDavid, I was like, the collarbone? And I just went, oh, wait a sec. No, not the collarbone. He snapped his PCL.
Yeah.
And rehabbed
it.
Yep.
No
wild.
Yeah.
That is he was the best player in the league, snapped his PCL, came back without missing a game, and was the best player in the league.
Can I read you guys one of the biggest travesties, as we were talking about, in the NHL in the most recent years?
Let's hear it.
We're going to go back to the 17-18 Hart Trophy voting because it's something to look at. So Taylor Hall won first place votes. He got 72 first place votes. He had 3 points on the year.
Okay.
So second place, Nathan McKinnon, 60 first place votes. Third place, Anze Kopitar, 11 first place votes. Fourth place, Claude Giroux, 10 first place votes. Fifth place, Connor McDavid with 5 first place votes. Even though out of all those guys listed, he led them all in points in less games.
Okay.
Okay, that's bad. Yeah, no, that's...
I don't know. It's just points, but...
Here's my contention, and this is my problem with the MVP award. It's most valuable to the team, not most valuable in the league. Best player in the league should be an award. But the NHL has to make things dumb and difficult. I will say this. As long as Connor McDavid is playing, and he plays more than 60 games, whether the Edmonton Oilers make the playoffs or not, or shoot themselves into the moon, Connor McDavid is always the Hart Trophy winner.
Who won the...
He's always the best. He's always the most valuable player on his team. It's inarguable. Inarguable.
You want... Which award do you want, Steve?
The Ted Lindsay. I want to know who won MVP.
Is that the leadership award?
No, it's the MVP as voted by the players.
Right. Messier was the leadership award.
It's very common for the Hart Trophy winner to also win the Ted Lindsay. But I have a feeling he won the Ted Lindsay, and how wild for the Ted Lindsay winner to not even be nominated for the Hart.
So the Ted Lindsay award went to Connor McDavid. So yes, and not. I said less games. He played all 82. That wasn't the season. He missed some games.
Oh, okay.
Do we have any runners up on the Ted Lindsay? Did they release that?
Let me look at the voting.
Connor McDavid should have 2 more trophies than he does. He should have the Hart from that year, or at least been a nominee for crying out loud, and the Calder, where he was robbed by 24-year-old Artemi Panarin, which is that going to be the only time that we bring him up on the show?
No, it is not.
No.
What a wild story that is. We'll get to that a little bit later.
As I was saying it, I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
That was just unbelievable.
They don't have the voting for the Ted Lindsay.
Oh.
Well, because it's players, right?
Yeah.
They should have a top 3.
I have the finalists here. 17-18, the finalists were Hall, McKinnon, McDavid.
Okay, that's fair. That's about what it should have been. Yeah.
But the writers screwed up that year for the Hart.
The writers are unreliable.
Top 3. That's ridiculous.
It's stupid.
That's
well, and you just make yourself look idiotic in posterity. Like I said, how's that vote looking these days, guys? I mean, it didn't look good at the time, and everybody was like, "Oh, you're crazy." It didn't. It didn't look good. And this is the best player. Connor McDavid at his best will be better than Sidney Crosby at his best. You watch.
That's a tough one.
Yeah,
but what do you mean it's a tough one?
No, because
Crosby made his team win. Like that's something that's so bad, so hard to do in hockey, and Crosby was able to do it.
It's unfair.
I'm so
you got to win.
He's got to win something. Yeah,
I am so upset with both.
What is McDavid won, Adam?
Nothing, because he's with the shitty Oilers. The shitty, terribly run Oilers.
Okay. Yo, the Penguins stunk when Crosby joined them. And then the next year they were better because Malkin.
Yeah, but they had the Lemieux group behind them. They had Marc-Andre Fleury. Edmonton's never had a goalie. They had, Malkin came in. So you got Draisaitl, McDavid, Crosby, Malkin. They don't have, Clefbaum should be their Letang, but he's out for the entire year. And they have been mismanaged from the beginning. The Pittsburgh Penguins management group deserves a lot of credit for surrounding Sidney Crosby with guys like, he was living in Mario Lemieux's basement for the first year. And then Mark Recchi joined when they won I think it was 2009. Did they not win with Mark Recchi? And they had Bill Guerin was on that team, wasn't he?
Bill Guerin. Mm-hmm.
There was these are guys that have gone on to do some pretty big things in the league. And I think other than, being great players, I think Edmonton's done zero of that. They drafted McDavid, fired the guy that basically was going to draft him. That's Craig McTavish, which honestly at the time I was like, it's probably a good move. And then you bring in Peter Chiarelli, who was like, I'm going to sign Lucic, and that's it. And then they like they have been stuck in a goaltending quagmire ever since. And yes, they're in the playoff picture right now, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But I find it extremely hard, guys, to blame the Oilers' lack of winning on Connor McDavid. And
That's not what we're doing.
Well, it takes away.
We're comparing Sidney
from his legacy
to Connor McDavid.
You're saying it takes away from his legacy, which I think is extremely unfair. Because at that point you're comparing management groups. Crosby was surrounded by some great players as well.
We're comparing the totality of Sidney Crosby and everything he's done to Connor McDavid's totality of 5 years in the league.
All I'm saying is when Connor McDavid inevitably ends up with the Toronto Maple Leafs, he will be better than Sidney Crosby. That's what I'm saying. When he ends up with a good management group, it won't be in Edmonton. I don't think it's going to be in Edmonton. I don't think he's going to win in Edmonton. I don't. I've said that from the beginning. The Oilers are what they are. They're a mediocre team.
I think you're confusing legacy and respect, right?
Okay.
So,
but what I was saying is Connor McDavid skill-wise will be better than Sidney Crosby skill-wise at both of their peaks.
Skill-wise, you're probably right, but it's not how it works. I mean, skill-wise, Alex Kovalev beats both of them, maybe, you know, but and he did win with the Rangers. And oh my God, that was such a stupid play.
Terrible.
Here's the respect versus legacy conversation. Allen Iverson. Everyone in NBA circles respects Allen Iverson and what he did. But if we're talking legacy, we have to compare his to others. He didn't win. Came close.
No,
didn't win. And it matters. It does matter.
Part of that, Allen Iverson's story is a bit different though, because he was a bit of a bad boy, and part of that, some people have said, is on him.
Didn't he have
the winning thing?
Yeah, well, I think that, I mean, you could take Allen Iverson's story. I mean, he had the issues with the coach and not showing up for practice or whatever. But beyond that, like, who was he playing with? I mean, he had some good players.
No,
but he didn't have a Pippen level player.
Allen Iverson didn't win because in basketball, the only time Isaiah Thomas is the only example in the last 100 years of basketball of a championship team being based around a point guard. Like it's not a winnable strategy in basketball. And there was never enough pieces with AI to win a championship. Like they made it to the finals and they got pummeled, but like, it wasn't a strategy that was going to win long term. And he needed more pieces than just himself.
It was just him and Dikembe, and then that was it, right? Like there wasn't, and that's the thing. What I feel like with McDavid is that when we talk about, I can understand what you guys are saying with respect. He does have to win legacy purposes 100%. But I feel like it's a little unfair to McDavid just because, as we can all admit, the Edmonton leadership group has been questionable, even under Ken Holland. It's gotten better. But this is still the same general manager who flipped 2 second-rounders to the Oilers last year and then didn't re-sign the guy.
No, but we all know that the real Hall of Fame's on top of your neck. Like there's the physical building, but then it's up here, right? Okay. Like he's going to get into that building. No matter what. Yeah.
If he retired today, he would.
Up here, like people talk about how the Hall of Fame's too easy to get in. You might be right. This one's harder. Up here, it's way harder to get in, and you got to win. There are. Kyle Lowry was probably not going to get into the Basketball Hall of Fame without that championship, because there were going to be people humming and hawing, and they never won. And he played in Canada, and I don't friggin' like the Raptors or even talking about them. Now he's got a championship. And he's still going. The championship matters. It matters. Okay. Now here we are. We were wrong about Connor McDavid, and we went right back to being unfair to him about something else. Everybody hates Connor.
The greatest of players in the NHL always find a way to win. I think one day in McDavid's career, if it's a couple years from now or whenever, I think he's going to find a way to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
He once his contract expires, he's going to accept less money, come to Toronto, play with Matthews and Marner, and win.
That'd be great.
And that'll be the year that everybody says Matthews is leaving for Arizona, which we all know is clearly going to happen. Now, look at how well run they are.
One last thing: the best player to never win the cup. It's a conversation based around like two guys: Marcel Dionne and Dino Ciccarelli. I've heard a lot of people say, who's also in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, he's great, but Dino Ciccarelli was not. I mean, he was great.
This is the thing, Adam. Like Marcel Dionne's up there, but we had to go pretty far down the list of all-time greats to get to Dino Ciccarelli.
Could I make the argument that Matt Sundin is better than Dino Ciccarelli?
Probably.
You could make that argument, yeah.
And he never won.
You can make that, like, how many times was Dino Ciccarelli the best player on the team that he played for?
Maybe with the North Stars, maybe?
Wow. You know what I mean? Like, it matters. It matters.
It does matter.
Yeah.
It does.
And
It matters.
Ovi was that player up until 2018.
There's
Right. That's true. That's
one of my
100%
favorite
true.
examples is Ron Francis, who's, I think, 5th in all-time NHL scoring. And there were a lot of years where he was probably the 3rd best Penguin.
Yes.
Like,
Well, it's because Yager and Lemieux were on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it's
matters.
amazing when you think about how much success Pittsburgh has seen in all major sports, excluding the Pirates in the last half century. Being a relatively small market, and in hockey terms, they're a small market. In football terms, they're a small market with an enormous fan base. The fact that they've won any championships at all is crazy, and the fact that in the early '90s, when Gretzky was making $8 or $9 million a year to play for the Kings, that they were able to hang on to Yager, Lemieux, Francis, all those guys, and who were not small salaries, even based on the time. It's pretty incredible. It's amazing. They lost money hand over fist, but they sure won a lot of games.
Here's how good Gretzky was. Mark Messier has a trophy named after him because of the 2 cups he won without Gretzky. It's true. Messier has 6 cups, and he has that trophy because of 2 of them. The one in Edmonton he won without him, and the one with the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
We all know it's true.
The one that Kyprios dragged him to.
Yeah, 100%. And that guy brought that sign just to show to Kyprios, now I can die in peace.
Just for Nick.
Conn Smythe winner Nick Kyprios. How many points did he have in that playoff run? I
Also-
want to know now.
Hey,
When
it
I
doesn't
hear-
matter. One.
When I hear Yager and Francis and Lemieux, all I think about is Matthews, Marner, and Tavares. Like, are we being
100%.
honest here,
No.
2 peas in a pod.
I gotta look up Kyprios.
So
I'm dying. I'm fixating on it. I need to know. I have to know. He played 3 games that playoff run, and he had 2 penalty minutes. But he was on the ice and won.
he was on the ice when they won.
Exactly. Good for
Doesn't
him.
matter. Has a chip.
Holy
Got that
shit!
ring.
102 penalty minutes in 46 games. Hard knocks. The 90s. Anyway,
Okay, guys,
Adam,
I have to admit something.
admit it.
I was wrong.
I know about what.
Guys, I was wrong about the Toronto Maple Leafs wrapping up the division and missing that opportunity last Saturday, like 2 Saturdays ago now,
Okay.
because I did not count on the Montreal Canadiens throwing their chance at winning the division.
Wow, it happened.
Yeah, I know. So here's the thing. I thought Toronto needed to win that game to really sort of wrap things up and clean it up.
Mhm.
But then I didn't count on the Habs winning 2 games in 7.
When are we going to talk about the thing that nobody really wants to talk about?
Was that?
Is it the fact? Well, first off, let me just throw this out there. The Leafs have at least, according to Dom Lucian, a 75% chance right now, things continue the way they are, to win the division. They're running away with it.
I saw his model. Doesn't it have the Leafs with an 8% chance to win the cup, which is wildly high?
Yeah, I think it's a little high.
That's
And
high that's as
I
high
wouldn't
as
give-
I've seen anyone.
I can't give the Leafs anything that high. Like, come on.
8%
I've got
high.
Too much PTSD as a fan for that. But
We're in a
Jesse,
league where 31 teams are still in it. That's very high.
Jesse, what do you want to ask?
See, the thing about the percentage of them winning the cup and them winning the division,
Oh, here we go.
one, the North Division isn't very good.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Is the
Jesse,
narrative-
all of Twitter.
Is the narrative
American
that,
hockey Twitter right here.
is
go.
the narrative that Twitter keeps hammering away at over the weekend. And when you're a hockey team and you only have to play 6 other teams for an entire season, and then the first 2 rounds of the playoffs are also versus these 6 teams, and like maybe 3/4 of them aren't playoff teams if they're playing the rest of the league, do we have to start to look at this a little differently?
I don't think so.
No.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because there are other bad teams in other bad divisions. I mean, you got to look at it like this. Like, look at I'll give you this. The East Division is pretty tough. Boston, Washington, Philly, Pittsburgh, Islanders. That's a dead heat. And then the Rangers have had a disaster season. New Jersey sucks. So does Buffalo. But then you look at like the Central Division. where somehow the
Everything
Lightning,
is
who have
possible.
played the least amount of games, everything is possible there. Dallas has only played 12 games, so they're a little bit behind. Tampa is in 4th place, just in the playoffs. You got Chicago and Florida in playoff position.
Kevin Lankinen, like one of the more underrated stories of the season. I thought Chicago was honestly going to finish last place with a Colin Delia, Malcolm Subban tandem. And this dude who I've never heard of comes out of nowhere. And in a league where save percentage is dropping, like plummeting, this dude's got a 925 so far.
That's crazy.
Stupid.
You will get into the playoffs if you have a starter like that. You will.
Absolutely.
And so you look at that, but you look at that division, guys. I mean, really, what should have happened, it should be Carolina, Tampa, Columbus, Dallas, and they all should be beating up on Nashville, Detroit, Chicago, and Florida. That is from a last year's perspective, it's like a have and have not division. And then obviously you've got the West division, St. Louis, Vegas, Colorado, pretty amazing. And then the rest of those teams, Los Angeles, Arizona, Minnesota, San Jose, and Anaheim. I think it's fair to say that there is at least one great team in each division. I would say Toronto, Boston. I think Carolina's been a great team for a long time, and we just haven't fully seen that yet. St. Louis won a cup. Vegas has been to 8 million cups. Colorado's been, like, other than those 3 teams in the Honda West, there aren't really any good teams there. And they're beating up on, you got to think about this. St. Louis, Vegas, Colorado get to beat up on 5 terrible teams.
It's St. Louis doesn't play Anaheim 8 times. St. Louis has to play Carolina, and they have to play Pittsburgh, and they got to play Boston. They got to play all the other teams.
They've already played Arizona 7.
Yeah, but the schedule is balanced for the other teams. And when you're in the North Division, you get to play Ottawa a whole bunch, and you get to play Montreal, and you get to play terrible Vancouver. And I see the other side.
Is that true?
I see the other side that are saying, hey, it's a little wonky here that the North Division is so bad.
Who's the second best team in Canada? Like, forget the standings. Who's the second best team in Canada?
When are they playing to their highest potential?
Who is the second best team in Canada?
It depends.
Winnipeg.
Playoffs start today.
Winnipeg.
I think it's Winnipeg.
I've been on that Winnipeg thing for the whole season.
It's impossible that 6 out of 7 teams in this division suck against each other. You know what I mean? Like, Calgary's in a slump right now. They're losing to teams in this division, though. Montreal's in a slump right now. They're losing to teams in this division. To me, it's impossible that this many teams in this division suck.
Also, I got to throw something out there. Jesse, I'm not totally sure that you're correct. The American teams are staying within their division. I'm having a look at Chicago's schedule right now, and they don't play a single team outside of their division.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. Is that what Jesse said?
Everybody's playing within their own division.
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Yes, but the North Division is the terriblest of it.
But that was your main argument.
No, but once you reach the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, are they breaking off, or are they staying within the division too?
You stay within the division until the conference finals, I believe.
Yeah.
In each of the divisions? Okay, that's a little different then. Yeah,
I believe so.
That's different then. Yeah, that's a little more even. Totally.
But, like, it's just still, I don't know. It's impossible that they all stink, except for the Jets and Leafs. That's impossible. But as a Leafs fan, in terms of teams you don't want to play in a playoff series right now, who's highest? Who don't you want to play? Because they're hard. You don't want to play the Jets.
No.
Who's after them?
Probably don't want to play the Canadians. Carey Price gets hot, you're fucked. I mean, let's be honest.
Edmonton's played the Leafs pretty well. Ottawa's played the Leafs pretty well.
Yeah, you probably don't want to play Ottawa, but you don't have to.
Okay, so now we're getting into a pretty interesting conversation, right? Because we're talking about, Edmonton's played the Leafs really well. And Ottawa's played the Leafs really well. And the Habs have actually managed to keep it close. They've played the Leafs pretty decently. So, like, what if the Leafs are just good? Like, what if the teams in this division don't stink and the Leafs they were already a good team and they've improved and they've found ways to win? It's not like they're getting out of this world goaltending.
They're not.
They're getting goaltending. It's okay. Like, they're just winning games because they're better.
And one of the things that they've been doing, Steve, on top of that, is they've been pushing shots to the outside. I think I brought up an article with, I think it was The Athletic, where Tampa committed to pushing shots to the outside, and it finally got them the cup that they wanted to get. And you're seeing that with the Leafs. Now, I'm not saying they're on Tampa's level in terms of being able to do that, but it's happening. You're seeing these low risk, low danger shots happen. And you can look at this, the score sheet, and Ottawa's outshot them or whatever's outshot them, but these are not high definition scoring chances. These are lower and the remember last year where you saw like 2, 3, 4 rebounds before they were able to get a handle on things. If they were able to get a handle on them at all, you're seeing less and less of that. I think this is a Leafs team that's been through it and seems like they're developing into the team that we expected them to be probably 2 years ago. Yeah. And that's why brings me to my second point, which I might have been wrong about the Leafs wrapping up the division or having the chance to wrap up the division, Montreal through it. Montreal, as I said to you from the beginning of this season, you cannot crown a team yet that hasn't proven anything. Now, I'm not saying they won't get there, but this is a team. Apparently, Philip Deneau is on the trading block, which is crazy to me. I keep hearing there's rumors about that, which that might just be Montreal. What's that?
And Suzuki's being scratched and stuff. I don't know what's happening.
And Deneau, I think, is they're having difficulty extending him, so they're trying to get value.
Right. This isn't the time.
No, I don't get it. This isn't the
time.
That's one of my favorite trade trees, by the way. The Habs traded, I think it was Thomas Fleischmann and Dale Weiss to the Chicago Blackhawks for a late first-round pick who was Philip Deneau, who wasn't working out in Chicago, and a second rounder who years later went on to become Alexander Romanov.
Wow.
Good trade. Fleecing.
Did Chicago win the Cup that year?
No, that was the 25th. No, that was the year after they won in 2015. That was 2016.
Okay, that's when they got destroyed by Nashville, right?
I think so. Yeah,
in the first round as well. They scored 3 goals in 4 games.
Something like that. Yeah.
What I'm saying here, guys, is the Montreal Canadiens. I understand the excitement around them and that sort of thing. But as I said to you before the season started, it's an issue of a team that hasn't fully developed yet. You got a lot of new parts here. Josh Anderson looks great, but you're going to have up and down moments from Kotkaniemi, Suzuki. There's a lot of people complaining about Claude Julien's systems. And I don't know how much of this you can blame on him, but it's there seems to be this thing where they're looking a little discombobulated, and you can't really point out what it is.
There's also the value of magic, and it's hard to deny, especially when they were playing the Canucks. The Habs were really feeling themselves. Mm-hmm. Did you see the overtime winner Ottawa scored against them last night?
Yes, I did.
There's 3 Habs standing still, and they don't look magical. They do not look like a magical team anymore. And that's a tough thing, because when they're riding that magic, people call them a juggernaut. And I look at the things they're doing. I look at the highlights every morning and I go, absolutely, they're a juggernaut. Look at them. They're unstoppable. Then when they go on a little streak like this or a little slump like this, I start to look at the team on paper. And I'm like, oh, they're not special at all. They're fine. They're fine. I don't know about special. And I look at how they're struggling to score. And Eric Engels had a stat. I think it's only once out of the last 7 games they've scored 3 goals. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the last game against the Leafs. And the only reason they got the third one is with about 90 seconds left, Tyler Toffoli accidentally literally broke Jake Muzzin's face.
Yeah. Muzzin's out, by the way. But
Muzzin is out. It's not
but
fun.
I want to throw this at you too. I tweeted this at the beginning or a few weeks ago, and I got in a bunch of shit from Montreal fans. They were so mad, talking about how much crow I was going to eat, blah, 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 blah. And I said, listen, Montreal beat up on a bunch of weak teams to start the season. The Habs are, do you want to know what the Habs are versus non-Vancouver teams?
Literally one team you're taking out of the equation.
Take Vancouver out of the equation. Do you want to know what the Habs are?
I want to hear.
5-5-3.
Oh, you know what's funny is if you did that for like Ottawa, I think the Leafs would get better.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But think about this: 5-5-3. They are 5-8 essentially with 3 points added versus teams that aren't the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, they've won 5 games versus the Canucks. Or 4. They're 4-0-1. They have one shootout loss in there.
So is it a weak division or is it a division with the Canucks?
And Ottawa.
Who are extra bad. Like, it's shockingly bad.
Ottawa plays hard too, though. So.
They do.
You know what you got to be careful of, though? Everyone takes a turn. Everyone takes a turn being ass, and the Leafs haven't taken a turn yet.
Let me throw this at you. Montreal and the Leafs are up there with PDO, both of them. Montreal's PDO basically disappeared. The Leafs have been riding a bit of a PDO streak as well. So it is going to come eventually. But at the same time, my point in saying that the Leafs had a chance to wrap up the division was, if you get far enough ahead, it's almost impossible to catch because of the loser point. Because if you lose in overtime, it is pretty good. Now, the Habs have played 2 less games. I know it's possible, but I'm starting to ask the question, is it probable?
You can get passed by a team, maybe 2. You're not going to get passed by 4. They're making the playoffs.
They got to keep going.
The Leafs, and
they should.
At some point, like in 2 weeks, the Leafs have pretty much locked up a playoff spot because the season ends first week of May.
Well,
Jesse, have to be pretty terrible.
Jesse, they broke Jake Muzzin's face.
They did.
That's true. They do have 18 guys on IR today. So
the weird thing about
this is the problem.
The weird thing about being faces being broken is it's like a week, and then they're like, "Well, just put a shield on, you're good."
Well, that's what happened with Kerfoot. I guess it depends on the break. I was thinking about it today. Morgan Riley goes down. TJ Brody goes down. Travis Dermott goes down. Justin, the thing about that pairing with Muzzin and Hall is they're the 2 hardest guys to replace, I think.
They are.
And that's not a knock on Brody and Riley. They have guys who can play like them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a guy who can play like Muzzin.
No.
I'm ashamed to admit this. So Rasmus Sandin is out. I think he has a broken foot. He in his first game with the Marlies, like, get out of here. So I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, if things go sideways and they need a penalty killer, do we find out? Do we go to the buoy?
What's that?
Martin Marincin.
No. Stop it.
What are you going to make Mikko?
He's not even good on the penalty kill. Stop it with his nonsense. He's not good.
Well,
He's a guy that put on a jersey.
I think Calle Rosen can kill them.
Okay,
I'd so much rather have him.
Just try him, for God's sakes. Try him.
Sign literally one of your guys on an AHL deal.
This is the most conversation I've ever had in my life. They're number 1 in the NHL, and we're talking about whether Martin Marincin is going to have to draw in to do better. Could we not enjoy this a little bit?
No. But they're 2 injuries away from Martin Marincin.
Oh, God. He never goes away.
They are. Yeah. They are. Like, this is the... So this is the biggest game of the season for Travis Dermott. This is the biggest game of his career. This is...
Wow.
Ironically, the situation he was left in at the beginning of the pandemic, when they canceled the season, Dubas literally uploaded like an inspirational video the night after or the morning after Jake Muzzin got hurt. The I believe it's the Chinese farmer parable.
That's right.
Where it talked about maybe and whatever. Because the night Muzzin got hurt against Tampa on the road, Dermott played, it was something like half of the third period. It was wild. Dermott can play power play. He's probably not going to have to. He can penalty kill as well, though. Muzzin's probably got like 30 pounds on that guy. It's going to be a very big test for Travis Dermott. And it's super unfortunate for the Leafs that their first game without Muzzin is against Calgary tonight. Because, as Elliot Friedman mentioned on the 31 Thoughts podcast, the Flames' downward spiral began with the Muzzin puck flip. And we talked about Matthew Kachuk talking to his team after the game. Like, he was pissed that no one came to his defense. And it sounds like the friction in the room has not dissipated. So they were probably chomping at the bit to take a big old chunk out of Jake Muzzin tonight. And now they're not going to have that opportunity. So... are they going to just wilt and have a regular Monday night regular season game? Or are they going to take advantage of a Leafs team that does not have Jake Muzzin in the lineup, Does not have Wayne Simmons in the lineup, and he did extremely well in Alberta. Does not have Zach Hyman in the lineup. And Joe Thornton, who's not going to take any shit. This is a vulnerable lineup against a pissed off team. It could go real bad.
Are they pissed off or are they apathetic?
That's what we're going to find out tonight.
Yeah, that's it. And Elliot Friedman did mention in that 31 Thoughts piece that he said this is like at this point they're starting to look in Calgary at aggressive trades. And
Sam Bennett's not going to start any fights tonight. He might be teammates with these guys in a week. Am I right? High five. High five. Am I right, Adam?
I mean, we're seeing.
Let's go.
No, unless he's a waivers pickup, and even then, I don't see how it happens.
Well, everyone's on damn waivers. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think with the Flames, they've been talking about. You've heard Gaudreau and Monahan's names pointed out there for years. At what point are we going to find out what the Calgary Flames are? We know what they're supposed to be, and they finally got the goalie that they needed. And Big Sam Dave's their backup. That's not bad.
Right. But Mark Giordano is like Ron Hainsey's age when he joined the Leafs. And that's your like Norris winning guy. Like they got a bit. The good thing about the Flames is they have they have value. They have good players. That's a start.
Mm-hmm.
But I've said this for a few years. I don't believe in that team like as a go all the way team. I think they're really good. I think they can play, they can maybe even get the second, third round, give teams trouble. They remind me a lot of, and maybe we'll get here, they remind me a lot of the 2017 Nashville Predators.
Interesting. Why I'm surprised they remind you of that. Why?
I just feel like the 2017 Predators were never going to win.
Really?
Yeah. In retrospect, looking back at Ryan Johansson, and you know what? Maybe that's revisionist. But they were this team that really had some pieces and really got some goaltending. But there was something about the way they were built up front where I was like, I don't believe you.
Well, they didn't have a center.
Do you know who led that team in scoring?
The 2017 Preds?
Yeah.
In the playoffs?
16-17, you're talking?
Yes.
Yeah, 16-17 in the regular season. Oh. Who led the team in scoring and how many points?
Yossi.
I'm going to say Roman Yossi as well, and I'm going to say by 12 points.
It was Victor Arvidsson.
Oh, okay.
How many points do you think he had?
65.
Was that the year he had 33 goals?
He had 31 goals.
Close. Well done, Steve.
Damn. He led by, did you say?
Yeah, Victor Arvidsson.
Yes.
How many points?
61.
61.
Whoa! Hey, there you go.
He was actually tied with Ryan Johansson with also 61, but Ryan Johansson only had 14 goals, so a lot of assists. Anyways, that's how inept their offense was.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
James
at least how balanced.
James Neal had a good year, though. That was a good year for James Neal.
They had a memorable playoff goal scored by Pontus Haberg. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they were digging deep. Now, pre-back injury PK Subban and Ryan Ellis and Roman Yossi and Matthias Ekholm. That's what made them special. They were a hard team to score on. They were a hard team to beat. And they got a lot of offense from the back end as well. That's kind of Calgary, isn't it? But not even really that much anymore. Like, they replaced TJ Brody with Chris Tanev, and I don't know. They're fine. They're still fine, but
they should be in the playoffs, though. They should be in the playoff picture the whole year.
They absolutely should be. And maybe any moves right now would be panic. They do strike me as the team that's just been together too long. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's beyond panic. Like, maybe this is, and you know what? Even if they beat the Leafs tonight, I'll still feel this way. Like, how many years in a row are we going to have to say this about the Calgary Flames?
Right. Well, and then the big thing to me is the Matthew Kachuk. There's potentially friction in the locker room. In a lot of other situations, you can wait out the season and just see how it goes. Don't make any stupid moves. Make some moves in the off season. But if there's a rot going on in your team, That's tough. You might want to nip that in the bud.
So GM Jesse and GM Steve, you got the opportunity to build your next generation of the Calgary Flames around a specific group of players. Mm-hmm. Are you building it around Kachuk or are you building it around Monahan and Gaudreau?
Is that what the options are?
Yes, because here's the thing. It's who are you keeping?
If I'm Calgary, I go, you move Kachuk for pieces that help you win now.
You move Kachuk?
Wow.
To get pieces around Monahan and Gaudreau and Backlund and the guys you have now to try and win. Because it's been too long that they had.
You've committed to this group with Markstrom and Tanev.
There's no rebuild here. Like, no, we're not giving you 4 years. So you move the younger guys to get guys to win now.
No, not him. Not the problem I have with Calgary.
Those are the two options. What do you mean?
Yeah. So Steve, so clearly Steve's on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you do? What's your rebuttal, Steve?
The problem I have had with Calgary is their lack of identity. I know exactly who Matthew Kachuk is, and you build around that. So,
and I'm not saying he has to be the best player on the team moving forward, but what I'm saying is there's going to be two. Here are the two forwards or three forwards that have huge value on the open market. Monahan, Gaudreau, who we've seen, we know what they are. Monahan and Gaudreau are who we thought they were, and they especially are who we thought they are in the playoffs, where they stink.
I think
Gaudreau is scoring at a 0.5 points per game.
He was good last playoffs, but he's the guy I move. I think.
Well, yeah.
He's the guy I move. Your number one center is Sean Monahan. Those don't grow on trees. You're not going to be able to replace him.
So let me ask you this, Steve.
Gaudreau.
Let me ask you this. Is Sean Monahan a guy who you win the Stanley Cup with if he's your first line center?
Probably not, but that's an off-season thing.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Just wanted to see. Very interesting viewpoints. And I actually, because I would say Kachuk too, but that's full rebuild. But you're absolutely right, Jesse. When you say Tanev and Markstrom are there for a long, long time. So what are you going to do? Is it a retool? And if it is a retool, what are you going to get for Gaudreau and Monahan with big money contracts who, honestly, the league is out of money? Look at Adam Henrique on waivers, who had a pretty good year, and they signed a contract extension that was Bob Murray's nuts. But I mean, he wasn't like he was like outrageous price for Adam Henrique. It was maybe $1 million more than it should have been. But now he's on waivers because people can't afford this anymore.
He was perfectly fine last year.
Perfectly fine.
He's had a rough start to this year, but he was perfectly fine. He had 26 goals. I think he missed some games, so he scored at like a 30-goal pace. Perfectly fine. That's a good player. It's just no one can afford it. On Kachuk, part of the reason Brad Marchand has had so much success in this league is he was a rat bastard. And then people tried to tell him not to be a rat bastard.
Interesting.
And then 4 Boston Bruins would maul that person. And that happened his whole career. Who's doing the mauling for Kachuk? He bothered Cassian. Cassian bothered him right back. And then the next game, the Battle of Alberta that we all watched, it had to be Kachuk versus Cassian. What? No. God bless Zach Cassian. That's a 30-point player for the most part, unless he's with McDavid. You know what I mean? Hey, I want a piece of Kachuk. Where's the flame hopping over the boards going, no, that's my dance. Actually,
Lucic?
That's my dance.
Lucic?
Since when?
Well, yeah. I mean, he was part of the mob in Boston for a while with him and Zdeno and it was.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, but that was a very long time ago.
But that's what you'd have him there for. Like, that would be the conversation I'd be having.
When you bring up Lucic, it's funny because the first thing I think of is failure in Edmonton. that's my biggest memory about Lucic.
He used to be an animal.
Oh yeah. I remember that too.
An animal.
But the first thing I think of is Edmonton.
Well, it's like an action star from like think of the early Steven Seagal movies. That guy was I believe it. And then he, one day he released a movie and you're like, you ought not do that anymore, Steven. And now it's a joke.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, or like Eddie Murphy. Do you think of Raw, his stand-up special, or do you think of him as a donkey in Shrek?
I like him as donkey. If you brought up Dr. Doolittle, I've been like, you have a point. Donkey's all right.
Donkey too.
Yeah.
I like the Nutty Professor personally, but
I think the Nutty Professor was funny, man. That was a good movie. And that's when they're sitting around that dinner table and Eddie Murphy's playing all of those characters and that scene fits together that seamlessly. That's pretty impressive. I don't care what anyone says. That's
so is
right.
that
the Nutty Professor? Impressive.
So is that his time? Lucic's time in Calgary is the Nutty Professor. His stand-up specials are his time in Boston, and Edmonton is.
What about his time?
No, that's Pluto Nash.
Pluto Nash.
The box office that bust. Wasn't it the biggest bust in box office history for a time?
For a long time. For a long time. Because they paid him a fortune for that. Okay, so
they had Eddie Murphy.
We're going to see what kind of Calgary we'll see tonight. Obviously, Nick Patan is in. Who else is back?
Barabanov
is in. And then there's someone on defense, too. I don't know.
Mikko Lehtinen is in for an injured Jake Muzzin. I have no idea what the lines are.
Okay, all right. Well,
I would put Dermott with Hall. And with Bogosian.
One thing I have liked is Alexander Kerfoot with Tavares and Marner.
Yeah, how about that? 7 points in his last 7 games.
Don't mind that.
Kerfoot's been real good.
If he's scoring at that clip, even if he is a winger who can play center when needed, 7 points in 7 games, if he's a guy that gets you 40 or 50 points and he plays most of the time on the wing but can do special team center, Alexander Kerfoot is a useful piece for the Toronto Maple Leafs. What is abundantly clear is that the third line center is not really an option for him. I don't think he's been the best. Now, that's what brings me to a potential trade deadline acquisition that I think the Leafs should consider. Hey, fellas, we're in the thick of winter and a storm's brewing. It looks like 1 to 3 inches are in the forecast. When you trim that hibernation bush that's taking place in your pants. Seriously. Luckily, our partners at Manscaped specialize in products to make sure you're walking around town with those beautiful snowballs. Manscaped is here to provide the best tools for your grooming experience, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. We're talking about the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, which is the best hygiene tool for the modern man. Because of their ceramic blade and advanced skin-safe technology, your snags on the snowballs will be reduced. The trimmer is also waterproof, so you can trim in the shower. It's a lot easier, right? Manscaped Performance Package is the best buy of 2021. The package comes with a new and improved Lawnmower 3.0, Weed Whacker, ear and nose trimmer, performance boxer briefs, which I have and I'm wearing, and they're comfortable, and a travel bag to put it all in. You don't have to put your underwear in, though. That's okay. 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com. All you have to do is use the code DANGLE. DANGLE. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code DANGLE. Thanks, Manscaped, for making our winter wieners look so good. You guys are going to think I'm crazy. And Brian Burke made fun of almost Kyle Dubas for doing this. But we talk about some old, grizzled, leathery vets that the Leafs have brought in. Joe Thornton, I would say chief among them, right? We like that. Patrick Marleau was going to kind of be that guy, but he's more of a finesse guy. Still playing in the league, though. A little overpaid, but great effect on the team.
He's good in the play.
Wayne Simmons, less old than Joe Thornton, but enjoyed an incredible resurgence here and has that attitude that the Leafs were lacking, right? We agree with that? Okay.
Yep.
How do you feel about hard miles, but still somewhat producing Eric Staal?
Ooh.
I don't hate it.
I really like that idea, Adam.
I mean,
really like that.
1-year deal, right? And so he expires at the end of the year. And he's, you don't need to rely too much on him at third line center. But he's a guy that can step in on the power play, could step up if one of the 2 major centers go down because he's been there before. You're hoping that he doesn't have to do it for more than 3 games, but it is what it is. There's a guy that's been there, won a cup, and gives you a little bit more of that sinewy thing. You know what I mean?
What does he give you, Adam?
Sinewy. What do they call that? That like where it's like that really hard tendon stuff. Like it's like that.
Oh, it's sinew, and I feel
Sinew. That's what is it? I can't. That's what it is.
Sinew.
I can't speak. Sinew.
What do you have to give up? What do you have to give Buffalo to get Eric Staal?
I can't imagine it's much. I mean, like what I would say to Buffalo is, do you want to hang on to him? Right? Like if it's really because hold on, I'm going to look it up right now.
How wrong were we about him? Oh, you watch. Eric Staal is going to put Jeff Skinner in his happy place, and he's going to have a resurgent season. And Ralph Kruger has locked Jeff Skinner in the garage. Like that dude has played 14 games, has no goals, 1 assist, and makes $9 million.
Here's the thing, he's going to outlast Ralph Kruger in Buffalo if Ralph Kruger keeps doing that. Like the players can love Ralph Kruger all they want. They don't produce, and this guy's making $9 million, and he's not playing every night. Ralph Kruger will be fired over this.
If you're ownership and you know your team sucks, you get to make the calls because you're ownership. I generally advise against this ownership getting involved, but you got to be like, okay, your number one mission is no longer winning. It is getting Jeff Skinner to score.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good enough. This is $9 million.
Yeah.
That's
You're
not,
the coach.
sorry.
Figure it out.
Separate conversation. But no, Staal hasn't been bad. 6 points in 14 games.
But last year, 47 and 66. The year before, 52 and 81. If you're getting 40 points from Eric Staal over the course of an 82-game season, at this point, you're happy. And that from a third-line player? Come on. That's not bad. That's what we wanted from Kerfoot.
The Leafs have their own. So the Leafs only have 5 picks in this upcoming draft.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own first, their own second. They don't have a third. They have their own fourth, their own fifth. Their 6th is conditional, and they don't have a 7th. The second I don't know, that might be an overpayment, but that should get the deal done. For crying out loud. Unless Staal goes on some sort of unbelievable heater.
You wait till the absolute last minute to make this deal, by the way. You don't make this deal early. Who cares about the 14-day quarantine? Doesn't matter. It's not like the Leafs' position in the division is going to be that threatened if things go the way they go, right? You don't care. Like, a lot of people are like, well, the Leafs will have to make the deals early because the 14-day quarantine. Leafs don't care. They do not care. They've got the guys to plug the gaps until Eric Staal arrives. You want to give him some time to gel with the players. I get that. But to be honest with you, I don't want to commit to Eric Staal until I've seen more Eric Staal. But I think he should be a high-value target as a centerman, proven guy, here for 20 games and the playoff run as far as it goes. And I don't think a second-rounder is what you should give up for him. I think it should be less than that. Buffalo sucks. Nobody has any money. The trade deadline is going to be, honestly, nobody has any money, guys. These owners are losing money hand over fist. It's a really, really, really tough sell for any NHL owner at this point, with the exception of maybe the top 5 teams in earnings, to bring on any contract. It's a tough sell. I don't think we'll ever know how bad it is, but I can tell you it's bad. If they're saying we would have lost less money for sitting and not playing at all, then that tells you something. And so I think when you're talking about trade deadline deals, when a team like the Sabres has the chance to save any dollars, they'll take it. And I don't think the market for guys like Eric Staal are going to be that huge. I get that he's a center. I get that he's still producing well. And again, you got to remember, he's got 6 points in 14 games on the shitty Sabres. Look at how bad Wayne Simmons was for the Sabres last year. Look at how bad everyone was for the Sabres last year. The Sabres are bad. They turn good players into bad players. Look at what happened to Ryan O'Reilly with the Sabres.
That's crazy.
He's now the captain of the St. Louis Blues.
I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do there in terms of making them better, but that's not the task at hand. Who cares? Eric Staal is a very interesting choice, Adam.
That's my. I have a question to also solve your problem internally this time, Adam. Corporations they'll be like, oh, we'll solve this internally.
We're going to post it internally for 2 weeks, and then we'll put it out in the public.
Instead of bringing someone from the outside in, what about your top 6 forwards look like this? Hyman, Matthews, Marner. This is when everyone's healthy, obviously. So not even Hyman, Thornton, right? Matthews, Marner. And then some combination of Tavares, Hyman, or Simmons. And then Willie becomes your third line center.
Ooh.
I think that ship sailed.
Is it gone?
You think so?
I think, well, okay, remember I said game 5 against Columbus, we were like, what are these asinine choices that the Leafs are making? You're going to give Andreas Johnsson his first game in God knows how long. Well, that's because they were giving him his chance to play his last game as a Leaf. And I think when they started Willie at second line center, they were giving him a chance. They were basically finding out once and for all if that's going to be a thing.
Show us.
It's not. I think it's like Kerfoot. It's like Kerfoot in that he can do it, but I don't think it's the best way to use him. But with Willie, because of the $7 million and because of his skill on the wing, the stakes are just higher. They're higher. The Kerfoot, Tavares, Willie line, if you really want to look at it, is 3 centers, which that's how most good Olympic teams are made. But
Nylander and Tavares haven't looked great this year together. So I'm just trying to find a new way to split it up. That's
that's fair. I don't hate them together. I don't hate them together.
They're clearly good. Like, they've had success. They're battling it, though. And it's funny because, like, I feel like JT is having individual success. And if you look at both of their point totals, they're both fine. They're fine.
I think Willie has 1 point in his last 7 games or something.
Right. But he did start
up a lot
at a point a
early.
game. He did. Yeah. He did start the season at like a point a game.
He racked up a lot early, and then
he racked it up early when Matthews was struggling.
Yeah.
Let me throw this at you as a third line, Jesse, if we're talking about line combinations.
Yeah.
What about Hyman, Staal, Simmons? Do you hate that?
There's something.
Maybe there's a line. There's a line that you don't want to play.
We keep talking about who's up next, right? And it's Pierre Engvall and Alexander Kerfoot's job to prevent this conversation.
Yeah,
from happening, right? And they've been doing a good job. Engvall's been solid, especially last game. It sucks so much having Hyman out of the lineup because that dude eats on the third line.
I got another line combo for you.
Gimme.
Okay, ready? Hyman.
I love it.
Staal. Robertson.
That dude may not be long for the AHL.
Or Simmons, Staal, Robertson. And here's the thing. If you get Robertson on a line with Eric Staal, you'll never get the puck because Eric Staal is going to win most faceoffs. He's over 50% all the time at forever and ever, amen. And then you got Nick Robertson who plays like he plays. And as you said, Steve, if Zach Hyman is that low because Kerfoot's producing up high, then you've got Zach Hyman who eats pucks a lot. That's a scary third line.
Yeah, I think the Leafs enjoy situations like the one they're heading into with Calgary. I think they got this 10-point cushion, and the team's doing so well, and it just seems like nothing can slow them down. And I think they want to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. But can we might see Nick Patan on the first line tonight, guys. Like, I think they want to see how it goes.
Why not?
Who's it going to be? It's going to be.
Now's the time, right?
Is it a disappointment that none of us have brought up Jimmy Vesey? Like,
I think he took a shot and it didn't work out.
They've given him an opportunity. And it's funny, I was looking at players the Leafs could give Buffalo to help even out the money a little bit, and I was like, Jimmy Vesey, you imagine? No! like when Amon-Ra got sucked back down into hell in The Mummy. Isn't that his name, Amon-Ra?
Yeah, I think the priest, the high priest.
And he gets all the like skeletons and spirits drag him back. Yeah. That's Jimmy Vesey going back to the Sabres.
Is that Indiana Jones?
No, it's the Mummy. Did you ever see that? It's Indiana Jones, but with Brendan Fraser. It's the same.
And Rachel Weisz.
Oh, big crush on Rachel.
I was in high school. Oh, Rachel Weisz. Anyway, where were we? Yeah, Eric Staal. That's a good choice.
I thought that might be a good. Yeah, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Now let's move on to Artemi Panarin. We got to get into this. So this started with Brooksy of That's What I'm Saying fame. Tweeted something that Artemi Panarin was leaving the Rangers, and it said political hit piece in Russia claims he beat up an 18-year-old girl in 2011. So I think it's important that we got to treat this carefully, because in any situation like this, you must listen to the victims. However, in this case, from our understanding, the article A was not written by the girl herself. In fact, there doesn't seem to be much testimony at all. Number two, it comes from a source that isn't exactly trustworthy. And we should mention too that Artemi Panarin has been an outspoken supporter of Alexei Navalny, who is basically Putin's biggest political rival in Russia, who's just had to leave Russia. Oh no, his wife had to leave Russia. He's gone back to jail. Like, there's a whole bunch of, and you know what happens when you speak out against Putin.
And we've been having this conversation for years. Like, why won't Alexander Ovechkin speak out against Putin? This is what happens. And I think we talked about it on the show, the big deal of Panarin coming out and criticizing him. But then we also talked about the fact that several Russian NHL players liked his post on Instagram. I didn't realize this at the time, but I saw Eric Engels and Isabel Kashudian tweeting back and forth at each other. Apparently, Alexander Radulov was one of the players who clicked like, and he clicked unlike. You can't even do that.
Oof.
You know what I mean?
Sorry, go ahead.
This is supposedly what happens. And it's like you said, the story could be true, you know, believe victims and all that, but there is no identified victim. This person has not spoke. And it's even several layers different than that. So Andrei Nazarov, who was, I believe,
he was a goon for the Penguins. And I think it's Nazarov, by the way.
Nazarov, sorry. More importantly than a goon for the Penguins, he was the head coach of Vitas Chahov in the KHL, who was Artemi Panarin's team, but also Mikhail Anison's team. So it's Nazarov. I'm going to say Nazarov. It's Nazarov was the head coach of Mikhail Anison, and he's saying that Anison told him that Panarin beat someone up in 2011 at a bar, and Anison is to be believed. These are supposedly Nazarov's words. I've been asking people. I don't speak Russian, so I couldn't read it. But Nazarov said Anison is to be believed because Anison was just drinking juice that night. So there's a few things to chew on there. First of all, not only is there not an identified victim here, but it's another degree removed, because it's Nazarov saying, Anison said this happened to this person, right? Anison, to my knowledge, has not spoken, right? Mm-hmm. So we're now in a couple layers deep into hearsay. There are deep political roots in the KHL, and this is basically what Artemi Panarin is saying is happening, right? In his statement. Do you have a statement up, by the way?
I do know that the Rangers put one out, and they basically said we can't really say much except for that we love the guy and we support him.
Well, no, I think it was a little stronger than that, because it was basically they vehemently deny. Here it is. Artemi vehemently and unequivocally denies any and all allegations in this fabricated story. Extremely strong wording. This is clearly an intimidation tactic being used against him for being outspoken on recent political events. Artemi is obviously shaken and concerned and will take some time away from the team. The Rangers fully support Artemi and will work with him to identify the source of these unfounded allegations. That's extraordinarily interesting, because I could have swore the source was Andrei Nazarov, who today in a Russian tabloid said that. So Nazarov has a very interesting history within the KHL. You mentioned he was a goon in the NHL. He was the head coach of Vitas Chahov, who the year before I started doing KHL highlights and all that, they were notorious for their brawls. They would have brawls off the opening face-off of the game. You only get, I think it was 4 import slots where you could get non-Russian players on your team. And they use their slots on guys like Nasty John Morasty, who I think was like an AHL goon, Jeremy Yablonsky. Both of those men, I believe, have fought mixed martial arts. Oh, God, who else did they get? Trevor Gillies, was it, at one point they had? And there were rumors that they were owned by people who may or may not be like similar to a character you might find in The Sopranos. There's footage of Nazarov basically trying to start a physical fight with a fan. On the note of Anisin only drinking juice that night, there's several videos of him like starting drunken fights. Actually, there's a notorious fight of those guys I just mentioned, Yablonski and Morasti, that I'm sure you've all seen. I've probably directed you towards it before. These guys challenged them to a fight at a wedding. And because of the language barrier, they're trying to tell them, like, we know what we're doing here. Please leave us alone. And then all hell breaks loose, and it's a big knockout fest. So basically that team that they were a part of, that Panarin and Anisin were somehow skilled players on, they have a wild and checkered past. Yes, Jesse.
I was going to say, in my Twitter mentions today, the three things that people were saying about how New York came out and said the story was fabricated. And the three pieces of evidence that people were pointing at, one was the fight. So the juice drinking, hey, he gets in all these fights. The other one was bars aren't really open in Riga on Sundays. And the event allegedly happened on a Sunday.
In Latvia.
This is in Latvia where this supposedly took place.
Yes, and that's where bars aren't usually open on Sundays. And then also in the story, the team flies out for a game, but in actuality, the game wasn't happening for another 7 days. So it would be odd for a team to fly to a city for a game that's not happening for like another week. So if you go back and check the schedule, like the game and the timing of the events don't line up. So those are three things that I just saw on my Twitter mention that people who have like knowledge of the things that are going on in Russia are pointing at, to be like, hey, these things don't line up. New York probably has a point saying that the story is fabricated.
Well, and the other thing I heard in my digging, this isn't me making an allegation, this is just something that I heard, is Vitas and to another extent Sochi, two different KHL teams, it's a bit of a running joke that they're basically the farm teams for SKA St. Petersburg. There's a lot of poaching from St. Petersburg, who has a lot of money, from these teams who do not. Right. And the problem with that is SKA St. Petersburg is owned, I think, at least in part by a company called Gazprom, which is a big Russian oil company that I believe is state owned. Right. So you're seeing basically, if you want a job in the KHL, it would be to your benefit to be pro Putin. And that means going against any detractor of Putin. Right. Mm-hmm. It's an extraordinarily messy story. And I was thinking about all the other times we talked about the KHL on the show, and remember our last conversation is, when is the KHL going to be like, we don't want to be the fuck up league? And I was just laughing to myself going, you're not that naive, are you, Steve?
Well, let me sorry, keep going.
Well, it's just, I don't know why I was like, it's not a league where that conversation is a thing.
Right. And so let me read you from Molly Walker here. Molly Walker, a reporter for the New York Post, a great follow on if you want to follow what's going on with the Rangers. And she kind of mentioned, she goes back and deep into this. There was fear of retribution because January 21st, Panarin put up an Instagram post with belief that his chances of competing for Russia in the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing would dwindle. Talking about, Alexei Navalny, and said, don't be, so he said freedom for Navalny. Nazarov, who has been described as by respected Russian journalist Slava Malamud, and I'm quoting directly here, as mentally unstable due to several meltdowns behind the bench throughout his coaching career, could be further trying to hinder Panarin's chances of playing for Russia at the Olympics. Nazarov also once called for foreign players who criticize Russia to be jailed, according to Malamud. This is and of course, Panarin sat down for an interview on a YouTube channel and eviscerated Putin in July 2019. He criticized the entire regime, talked about why he never understood why because he had supported them before. He's like, but I was focused on hockey. I wasn't reading anything. And so he goes into in this interview about like, it took me something like 2 years before I thought something is wrong in Russia. I began feeling with time that at the end of the summer, I wanted to go back to the United States. And so long story short here, it's a mess, but Brooksy from the New York Post put this out as he said, it's a political hit piece. And apparently was it Isabel Khurshudyan who said it wasn't even really that big of a news story in Russia itself.
Great minds, Adam. I was about to read that thread. So she said, this is kind of odd. Panarin has been critical of the Kremlin, but while this story made some headlines here in Russia today, it also didn't seem like it was getting so much attention as to pressure him to take a leave in New York. There could be more to it too. And then she starts a thread. Since this tweet is being misinterpreted in all sorts of ways, I'll try to clarify a thread. Not saying this couldn't be Kremlin orchestrated smear, but I think that's a bit of a leap. Would be a strange way to go about it. A former coach who isn't credible and no woman has come forward. Not really convincing. The story didn't even really get a ton of traction in Russia until Panarin said he was taking a leave of absence. Also, not saying Panarin is definitely innocent, but no one should just take Nazarov's word for it either, obviously. It's easy to jump to the most outrageous conclusions when it comes to Russia, because a lot of outrageous things do indeed happen here. But it's also entirely possible Nazarov just decided to say a bunch of nonsense to a questionable media outlet without anyone ordering him to. All that being said, my "there could be more to it" comment refers to why Panarin might have chosen to take a leave of absence. This story alone clearly didn't succeed in smearing him, nor should it have. People in North America are generally siding with him, but obviously don't know if there's been anything else behind the scenes that spooked him. Maybe he's legitimately worried about his family. Don't think his criticism of Putin has been so intense to trigger such a thing even here, but certainly possible. And by the way, did we ever have Isabel on the show? I thought we did.
No, I don't think maybe we have. I wasn't here for it. If we did,
long time ago, when she's now the Washington Post foreign correspondent in Moscow. She used to cover the Washington Capitals.
I also want to throw this at you guys. The Ivis Kalnich spoke with the hotel spokesperson at the hotel. So the story also says that they paid a €40,000 bribe to get Panarin off for this and have the local authorities look the other way. And again, remember, this didn't happen in Russia. It is alleged to have happened in Latvia. And Kalnich said, I've reached out to local authorities, the hotel that runs the bar in which the alleged incident would have occurred, and many of Panarin's former teammates. No response as of right now. He said, hotel spokesperson, as well as multiple other sources, have now told me no such incident has occurred. One person who I spoke to answered with, no, absolutely not. If you look at what Nazarov said, and do a little research, you'd instantly see through his lies. So this is a total mess. Yeah.
And Isabel brings up a very good point. Like, if this were, because we all go with the sexiest conspiracy theory, and the sexiest conspiracy theory is Vladimir Putin he was sitting like this with his fingers, behind his desk going, I want you to say this about Artemi Panarin.
Yeah.
More likely, if it is a smear campaign, more likely it was just Nazarov saying this.
Yeah.
Of his own accord. He
was just probably like, screw this guy, I hate him.
Yeah.
I think beyond that here, I think that there is the New York Rangers angle. And
they haven't had a fun year.
They have not. And they've had a rough year with abuse allegations. I don't want to call them alleged this and alleged that. And Lias Anderson saying, I'll never play for the New York Rangers. Imagine you're drafted by the Rangers. You get to live in New York. And you're like, nah, not for me, dog. And then obviously the Tony DeAngelo situation. And we said, they've got issues there and they're not dealing with these issues and they've been hiding these issues. This might be the New York Rangers saying, we don't care how small it is. We need to do something. And
we're getting ahead of this.
And it's not exactly like they're having a great year anyway, or they're going to have a chance to make the playoffs. Let's be honest. So why not? If it makes sense for player and it makes sense for team, and let this sort of figure itself out, who cares? I mean, it sucks for the player, it sucks for the team. This is awful, but it's if that's what it takes for a little bit for the New York Rangers to kind of start doing something about their PR and about their alleged inaction when it comes to these sorts of situations, it's good to see. Do you not think?
Yes, and actually, sorry, I brought up a couple videos earlier. One was of Anisin, the other was of Nazarov. There was another one that I wanted to point you toward. Josh Hennessy, who was a former second-round pick of the Sharks. He only played 23 games in the NHL, but that's 23 more than me. Mm-hmm. He played for Vetus during the lockout season of 2012-13, and he was on Spit and Chicklets, and he told a story that I've watched 1,000 times. And he was on Vetus with that old Vetus ownership group that I was telling you about that's a little bit like Sopranos. Wild. Just a wild organization. And remember I told you years ago, like whenever I see a player sign with a certain team, I'm like, oh, that couldn't have been your first choice. Vetus. That's not a first choice destination. It is a unbelievable mess. And I believe Nazarov's been out of coaching for a while too.
Yeah.
Let me just see.
Oh, no, I think he's the current head coach. He's the current head coach.
Oh, really? Hockey DB says Neftahimic was his last team, but yeah, it's a complete mess. And listen, yeah, it is entirely possible this is true, but we haven't heard from a victim. We haven't even heard from the person the story allegedly came from.
Right.
So this is, it's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mess it's not just a mess. It's a mess that requires a follow-up.
Yeah.
There needs to be a follow-up here.
Agreed. Completely agree. And we will see that and we will follow that as it goes on. So anyway, we do need to talk about a couple of things here quickly. The Nashville Predators. We sort of mentioned them a little bit earlier, but that team is looking extra bad. And there is one thing that really stood out to me about the Predators, and it was what Elliotte Friedman had to say about them selling off, because that's what they're prepping to do. They're prepping to sell off.
Yeah.
Who are the three players he named as untouchable on the Nashville Predators roster, Jesse and Steve?
Well, in typical Steve fashion, I listen, so I'm cheating, and I also forget.
No,
so,
I'm asking you.
Oh,
Tell me.
He's Roman Josi is
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Ellis is another.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the third.
The third one, to me, is the one that is the biggest problem. Jesse, can you name the third player?
No.
Take a guess.
No.
Take a guess.
The three UC Saros?
Pekka Rinne.
I guess the wrong goalie.
That's right.
Are we kidding?
That's nonsense.
Pekka Rinne is untouchable because no one will touch Pekka Rinne.
Well, I think they're basically, I guess they want him to be a lifelong Pred. That's nonsense.
So do you want to be good?
If you're really trying to rebuild the team, that's nonsense.
He's 38 years old, guys. 38. So maybe he retires at the end of this season.
Yeah. And not having a bad season, really.
No.
908 in a league where it's dropping. That's okay.
But the Preds are having a bad year.
Oh, they're dropping like a rock.
And I'm just bringing up their cap-friendly Preds. Cap-friendly Nashville Predators. Okay, let's have a look here.
The cap is becoming less of a thing. Like, I know the flat cap screwed a lot of teams, but a lot of teams just literally don't have the dough. And I think the Preds are one of them.
So
we should also say that Friedman, the name that he wrote down on a piece of paper in the 31 Thoughts podcast was because of this Nashville story. So he heard that they were selling off everyone. And in the off season, the Leafs offered Mikael Granlund a contract to come here, but he decided to stay with Nashville. So Friedman speculated that, hey, maybe because Nashville's selling off everyone, that the Leafs might be interested in getting Granlund to come here because Granlund had interest in the Leafs in the offseason.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't pay for Granlund when you can get him next offseason. He's up for free agent again. Like, nah. Now, Pekka Rinne obviously is going to retire at the end of this year, guys, because he's got $5 million on his contract currently. That's what he's making. And he's a UFA at the end of this year. He's 38 years old.
Yeah.
That's the reason. That's the only reason that Pekka Rinne is not moving. Otherwise, Pekka Rinne they needed to move Pekka Rinne. But when you look at the roster and the construction of this roster, it's a little scary. Like, you've got Johansson, I believe, is on injured reserve, is he not?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then him and Matt Duchene are both taking up, between the two of them, 20% of the Predators cap currently.
Oh, Matt.
And people complain about Matthews and Marner.
Two maybe second-line centers. Duchene's a second-line center in the league. Johansson, I'm not so sure about anymore.
Duchene is in sort of the same class as Monahan. They can both play on my team. They're both friggin' really good. Okay, now they're your number one option. Oh, so he's going up against Braden Point and Sidney Crosby and Nicholas Backstrom and, Tyler Seguin, and you go down. How many teams would he be the number one center of? And
Nashville Predators, the Ottawa Senators, not even the Sabres.
No, they got Eichel.
Yeah, it ain't good.
It's
not a good situation.
And let me say this, though. What will be very interesting for Nashville is if 26-year-old Philip Forsberg moves. I mean, there is an opportunity to get a player for a good long time. And, it's this sounds nuts, okay? Sounds crazy. But if you're Calgary and you want to shake things up, doesn't bringing in a guy like Forsberg shake things up?
I got a name. Oh, first of all, Adam, to address the question you asked, yes.
I sell the farm to get Philip Forsberg into Calgary. That's the kind of player they need.
He would provide a pop to them that they would desperately need. But I remember an article from a few years ago when Justin Bourne had recently left the Leafs organization and started writing again. He was talking about
how'd that work out for him anyway.
He works for some garbage organization called
Garbage.
Sportsnet. Never
doing a national radio
blogger.
Loser.
Yeah, now he quit writing and started talking. What a guy.
Can you imagine? Imagine if he did, like, I know he has more pride than this, but imagine if he had jump cuts. Like, that's terrible. Am I right, folks? So anyway, he wrote this article where he was talking about a team meeting, and I think it was with the Marlies, and Dubas was there. They were having dinner or something like that. And Dubas just in the middle of dinner, not meanly, but he sort of calls out Andreas Janssen. He goes, Yanni, why can't you be Victor Arvidsson? And it was meant to be a compliment and also sort of a challenge, where he was basically looking at him and going, I see a lot of the same tools. And I thought about the comparison, and it's interesting. But now, if Nashville is in selling mode, you know who you can get? Literal Victor Arvidsson.
Is Victor Arvidsson the same player, Steve?
Well, he was very consistent for a while. He had 31 goals, 29 goals, 34 goals. Last year, he dipped to 28 points in 57 games, only 15 goals. This year, he's got 2 goals in 17 games and 7 points. Asterisk, the Preds suck. So is he a guy who stirs the drink? Probably not. Is he a guy who contributes a lot on a team with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, and William Nylander? Yeah, probably. I don't know. It's a name. Steve, what about the money? I haven't even thought about the money. I don't care. I'm just talking about fun things. And he would certainly be a fun thing.
Mm-hmm. He would.
It's interesting that a team that was that good for that long is thinking about breaking it down that dramatically. Because, like Friedman mentions, like even a young player like Dante Fabro is available.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
At 22 years old.
Man,
I mean, you'd probably pay a pretty high price for him.
Probably, but just so many. To your point, Adam, like the Preds just never really made a choice in net. Like we talk about up front, but UC Saros is going to take over. He's going to take over, and now Rene's got a 908 save percentage, and Saros is sitting on like an 882.
Yeah,
like now it's just not going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen. If he does take over, you're talking about last place.
Yeah.
It's
they were supposed to make
not a
that
good situation.
transition like half a decade ago, and then in between that, Pecorine won the Vezina. And you're like, oh, I guess we can't make the switch.
He's like a Jonathan Quick type goalie, right? Or even a Bobrovsky in the sense that it's like good year, bad year, good year, bad year.
He really does have two modes: bum and unbeatable.
Yes. But I think at 38, the chances of him going back to unbeatable are less. And if they want to make him a lifetime bread, probably time to retire this year. It's funny. I'm looking at some names on this list, and I was thinking about it in terms of if the Leafs had not been able to pull off TJ Brody, we'd be still harping on the right side of the defense. And it would just be, there'd be a big old gaping hole. And we would be considering names like Mark Borowiecki and Matt Benning, and all names that came up before for the Leafs.
Wasn't that a name that the Leafs were rumored to be looking at anyway in the offseason, Borowiecki?
Yeah.
To run the media relations department after they saw his video with Melnick. So
he played it well.
Yeah.
And Matt Benning, who they did try to get from the Oilers for Connor Brown.
This is staggering. Oh my God. Here's how dire the situation is in Nashville, by the way. Philip Forsberg, 8 goals, 7 assists, 15 points in 17 games. Good. Very good.
Very good.
Next highest scoring player has 8 points. That's Ryan Ellis. Okay, what about after him? Also 8, Roman Josi. Then also 8, Matt Duchene.
Oof.
Boy, no one can score.
Well, they don't have any finishers on the roster, really, except for Forsberg. And even that's not, he's not big on, like, his goals are big by Nashville standards, but they're not. The thing with Forsberg is he doesn't shoot enough. This is a guy with a career shooting percentage of like over 12, and he doesn't shoot enough. If you could get him to shoot more and also play in more games, because he has had injuries the last 4 or 5 years, man, that's an unbelievable player.
Adam, the second leading goal scorer on the Preds. Who are they? How many they got?
Second leading goal scorer on the Preds. I'm looking. I'm going to say Granlund, and I'm going to say 5 goals.
It is not Granlund. He is tied for third.
Can I guess that it's a defenseman?
Oh, no.
You are incorrect.
Incorrect. 5 goals is the number I'm going with, Steve.
Here's the bad news. Their second leading goal scorer is Kalle Järnkrok. Here's the worst news. He's got 4.
Whoa. Yeah, you're toast with that.
Willie's getting skewered, and he's got like 6.
Yeah.
And I think he's like, what, 4th on the Leafs? I know they've played more games, but oof, Maron. That's
bad.
Oh, good Lord. Here, I gotta look at the Leafs just for my own fun. Matthews is 18. LOL. Marner 9. Tavares 6. Simmons 5. Forgot about that one. Willie 5. Hyman 4. So Hyman, Kerfoot, and Spezza would all be tied for second on the Preds in goals.
By the way, Hyman would have had another one if he just scored another empty net goal on Saturday.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He's the empty net goal king.
And for anyone who's like, yeah, but the Leafs have played more games. Cool. Simmons has 5 in 12 games.
Awesome.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that bad.
It's bad. Lastly, before we get the Nashville sell-off, if it happens, we got a couple more things to get to. First off, the Lake Tahoe pictures. Despite what happened on the ice with the sun, I'm sure they can fix that. How beautiful was that? Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely hope that they do Lake Louise in the future. I know that Elliot Friedman sort of talked about that on Hockey Night in Canada. Would be super cool. And obviously the issue, I guess, has to do with advertising along the boards, which if I'm Lake Louise, the town of Lake Louise, I waive the rule in this particular instance. If the NHL can come, it's pretty good tourist. It's a nice tourist spot. It's very small. I wouldn't even want to have fans there. I think you have it fan free and you just have it just a rink.
Cool.
It's cool without the fans. Weirdly,
the sound.
The sound is amazing. And I think you do it without the fans because here's the thing: it is pristine, untouched, beautiful nature. And it would bother me if 20,000 people showed up in Lake Louise. I don't think it. I mean, I guess they take that in skiers each weekend, but it just seems like a lot of people to flood the town with. However,
it's not
cool zone to do it in, and I hope they do it.
You know what you just reminded me of? Shoving that many people into a setting like that. You reminded me of Loch Ness in Scotland that I visited last time I was there, which coincidentally, perhaps not so coincidentally, is the first place I ever saw a car flip over. It is not made for the amount of people that go through it. So yeah, fan free in Lake Louise or extremely limited.
I like fan free because then at least then if you make it extremely limited, then it's like, oh, a bunch of rich assholes are there. Let's make it fan free, and it's just hockey like it was in Lake Tahoe, and it was beautiful and amazing. And I know they had to play the game at midnight, but still very, very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of finger wagging at people making fun of the Sun basically postponing a game. Now, the people who are like, this is why the NHL is stupid. No, that's wrong. I think that's wrong.
We have legitimate reasons. Let's not throw this one.
Yeah, we don't need to water them down.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of watered down, Adam, the ice. So it is funny that happened. It's funny that happened. They found a perfectly logical solution, which was to finish the game when the ice was frozen. And then the next day they played another game and it went off without a hitch and it looked great and it was wonderful. Good on the NHL for doing right in our faces what we always tell them they cannot do, which is the unexpected.
Yes. It was
Good
nice.
on them for trying.
Yep.
Good on them for
trying. It was really nice. And I think that was, and somebody tweeted this either in my timeline or at me or something like that. They're like, this was the original idea with the outdoor game. It's just that they got bogged down in Chicago, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, Pittsburgh.
Wasn't the first one in Edmonton?
I don't know. Oh yeah, it was the Flames in Edmonton, wasn't it?
I think it was the Habs because I remember Jose
Heritage
Theodore
or something
with the toque.
Heritage Classic.
Yeah, and I understand they want to have fans there, and the owners want to have fans there, and they want to make it a home game or whatever. But I think the experience and the visuals, especially in the social media age, boy, I don't know if you can buy that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the NHL saw a big sign that said, hey, we could fit 90,000 people into a football stadium and watch them and make them watch hockey. And they started doing that for 10 years. And then they realized, oh, maybe we should go back to the original idea.
Maybe this makes for terrible television, which we suck at.
Right.
Although, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Well, we overuse the term printing money, but like with the big house game between the Leafs and Detroit, like Brian Burke, current president of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Brian Burke, came on this podcast and, Bettman was just calling him every day. Go, can you sell an additional 20,000 seats? Yeah, I need 48 hours.
Yeah.
That's it.
Did you go to that game, Steve? In the big house?
Did not. Not only did I not go to that game, I didn't watch it live because I was at someone's cottage and I was playing on the ice for the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
We're playing that outdoor game. And I tried to, so we watched it when we got home later that day, and I tried so hard to avoid spoilers. And I thought I saw a tweet that said the Leafs lost. And I was just I was so pissed because it's like the third period, Red Wings tie it. And I'm like, of course. Now I'm about to, and then Tyler Bozak wins the game in the shootout. Mm-hmm. Imagine my surprise because I thought I had read. That was literally my reaction because I thought I had read that they had lost, and then I see him win, and I'm like, "Oh, I guess it's over then." And I kept waiting for like a review or something. Right. They had just won. Yeah, it was really cool.
Well, it's and it was also heartening to hear Elliot Friedman talk about the TV deal, which ESPN will be at least in part of. And this is an important thing. The ESPN and NHL have a long history together, which ended with the first major lockout that through the entire season. Like there was the lockout in the early 90s, but if you read the ESPN book, which is, by the way, a fascinating read into the business of sports, into the formation of a channel that nobody thought could work. You can say what you want about ESPN, but holy smokes, what an incredible read that was. One of the things that they built that brand on was the NHL. They made hockey, especially in California, accessible. When the rise of ESPN directly correlates with the NHL, which was, at the time, riding an enormous high coming out of the 80s and going into the 90s. It was considered the next big game. And it was at that time, this will challenge basketball and baseball to be one of the top, sports in North America. But the problem is that A, the game got more boring, and B, ESPN pulled out of their $100 million deal in 2004 after they threw the entire season. And that is why Gary Bettman intelligently said to the owners, listen, this is our chance to get right back in with ESPN. And that is the only network in the United States that really matters. Let's be honest. Not that Fox doesn't matter. They matter locally. They matter as a secondary network. But, what was it? They were on the Outdoor Life Network for a few years. This cannot continue. You got to get back on ESPN, reestablish yourself, get yourself into their highlight packs in the morning, get people interested in this shit some more. Because you got another American team coming and you need to be on ESPN. And it looks like they're going to be, which is great.
That's a really important point there, Adam, because to a certain audience, if you're not on ESPN, you're kind of out of sight, out of mind, because it's the biggest sports network in the world. And like, if you go to their website right now and you like click, there'll be like the tabs on the top that are sports and like the sports that they cover. It's NFL, NBA, soccer, NCAA, men's, MMA, NCAA football. Hockey doesn't make the first list of tabs. You have to click like the 3 dots to hit more and then drop down to the NHL. And if the NHL can just get a little bit of TV coverage from them, all that stuff just spikes up. Maybe they're actually on the front page in the little tabs of the sports leagues.
Yeah.
Like they're a relevant sports league in America again, just by being in connection with ESPN. So hopefully they can get that deal, because I just hope they get that for the sake of hockey.
I agree.
I want to see the game grow.
We also need to get to the point, and I know this puts Steve's in a bit of a precarious situation, but we cannot black out games anymore. We've moved past
should I
this.
Go to the bathroom?
Yeah, you should. We cannot black out games anymore. If you are living in a local area, however you consume that, whether you purchase the streaming rights through whatever app you use, let's say it's on ESPN, let's say it's on TSN or it's on Sportsnet or whatever, or you buy the NHL app. Tell me how, in this day and age, you're not pushing people to illegally stream things if you're blacking things out.
Yeah. So, I know I work for Sportsnet, but I've said I hate blackouts before.
And just to explain what that is to people, if say Adam, you have a subscription to a sports streaming site called Sports Get Them Right This Second. So you can get the sports right this second on your phone, and you buy the NHL package, which allows you to stream all NHL games. But the exception is for blackouts. Blackouts are when a game in your region is showing on local cable. So if it's showing on TV and you have the streaming app, you're not allowed to watch it on the streaming app if it's available on cable, and it's not a national game. So the Saturday night games, you can watch them because you can always watch them. But if it's a different day of the week and it's a local game and it's showing on your cable television, you can't watch that on your streaming, even though you pay the subscription for the NHL pack.
Right. And all you need to do to solve this problem and boost your viewership is take the local game and put it on the app. And then you get a bunch more viewers on your ads. Now, the old way of looking at this from an advertising perspective is, hey, wait a second, guys. I have local ads running on my thing, and I need to be able to sell local ads. But reality is, for hockey, especially in Canada, a lot of those ads are not as local as you'd think. We're talking about national ads most of the time. Like, Panago, for instance, one of our advertisers for years, buys a lot, or used to buy a lot of Canucks. I don't know whether they do or not, but I know that they bought Canucks, and specifically they would buy local, and then they would buy Canucks. They bought on the remember they used to do the advertising on the boards on the high glass behind the goalies. That was
they're big out west.
They're big out west, and that was on the glass, but it was only on the glass on television because they can do that with technology these days. And it's interesting to me that that they're a national chain and they're buying local games. Most companies, GMC, Ford, whatever the big companies are, they're even buying the local games too, because it's guaranteed watch. And I think the days of, and this is just my personal opinion, the days of that local needing to serve that local audience are still here. But with technology and I encourage you to look this up, ad substitutions. So you can have an ad substitution in your local market. So let's say I'm a Leaf fan in Edmonton and I want to watch a TSN feed of a Toronto Maple Leaf game. And it's a local feed, meaning it is not broadcast nationally on cable. It is just, that means though, that they could be making money off of the local business in Edmonton who's chose to advertise to Edmontonians with the ads substituted in. You can do it. They do it in radio, on iHeartRadio. I know in the States we do it in Canada as well. Podcasting, we do it. It's crazy. So I feel like, the NHL, the next step, and hopefully this is a part of the new TV deal, stop making people stream things illegally. You have got to give them the opportunity to do it easily. Nobody wants to steal. I mean, not to bring up his name, but like, was it Louis C.K., Steve, that said
That's
that?
exactly where I was going to go. Yeah. No, and well, okay. Yes, let's acknowledge all the bad things he did. But
yes, terrible.
When he was on top of his game, there was a business. He revolutionized stand-up comedy in that he released a special that he independently produced, and he put it on a website, and he went, it's $5. And his anti-theft strategy was asking people not to steal politely, and people paid because he made it easy. He made it easy because, and I remember he did an interview. He was talking about, he's like, in Australia, they just steal. They just, because it's such a pain in the ass. I don't know if it still is, but it's such a pain in the ass to get anything there.
Yeah, Australia was really locked down for a while with that stuff.
Yeah, so I'll just pirate it.
Yeah.
I'll just make it easy. And you're right. You're right. Most people do not want to steal.
No, I don't want to, dude. I don't want to go on some crazy Reddit thread and get a .ru that is streaming the game and get that shit on my computer. No thanks.
Yeah,
I want to buy the NHL package. Remember we were talking about the AHL one too? It was like $400, and as soon as we talked about it, they're like, "Oh, by the way, we put out a new AHL package, and you can buy it for $99 now."
There was one point when the AHL full streaming season package cost more than the NFL equivalent in Canada.
2 times more.
Yeah. What's the NFL Sunday ticket is what it's called.
It's like $200 for NFL Sunday ticket. The AHL was like, no, we want $432. Thank you very much.
It was absurd.
And then, of course, as soon as we mentioned it, they changed it. And here comes Leo, baby Leo, coming on the podcast.
He's very upset. So
is he?
The Blue Room is sorry to interrupt the conversation. The Blue Room is usually a guaranteed cry stopper because he looks around. He loves all the hockey stuff in here.
Oh,
you feeling better, buddy? Are you in the Blue Room?
All right, if you're listening to this, I apologize. He is very horrible, and you should check it out.
Yeah, Steve's talking to a baby, not us. If you're just listening.
Hold on, is this a pre-victory baby, Steve?
No, this is no victory baby. I will not use my son. Victory baby. No, he's getting something out of this in that he is not crying anymore. Yay!
There's toys everywhere. There's all these dolls. How could he not be excited about it?
He likes the toys. Leo, busy. There's a little smirk.
Babies never perform on command. It's annoying.
You were upset, weren't you?
Look at those cheeks.
He's 8 months old today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you sleeping full nights?
Sorry?
You sleeping full nights yet?
Full nights. And he's got one tooth that I think is bugging him, and that's probably why he's cranky.
Well, listen, it seems like a good time to actually wrap up the show. I know we did have a press conference to get to, but we talked too long. So it is 4:25 in our time. Steve, your video has officially dropped with David Ayres. And I think we're going to wrap it up, guys. Are you guys good?
Yeah, I think Steve has a baby to tend to, so we must end the podcast.
I'm sorry, everybody.
No, don't be sorry, man. I got to go pick up Everly from daycare. So I'll see you later.
Here, there's a smirk. End on a smile.
So Leafs Flames tonight. We will see you Thursday, and you definitely want to check out the end of the show for Leo. Oh, he's smiling!
Yay!
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection.